Yo, what up, chat? How's it going, guys? Hey. Sorry about the crash earlier. We use a GoPro, or Toda uses a GoPro, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but a GoPro uses a Ethernet signal, actually, to transfer data. It goes over a virtual network interface that the cable itself, the USB itself, sorry, that's our Discord. The USB itself actually sends over a virtual Ethernet interface, and for some reason, oh no, my light on. For some reason, there we go. For some reason, it killed the stream. Like the stream stopped sending data, and so I had to kill OBS and restart it. So sorry about that, guys. My apologies. We should be good now, though. Everything should be working. What's up, Digital Fortress? How you doing, man? Baron Oper, hello. Marvin, how you doing, buddy? I always appreciate your commentary. You know, you blame it on me and not you updating OBS. I mean, it's not been confirmed. Hold on, motherfucker. For starters, I did not say, listen, it was Toda's fault. All right, and Toda's the one who screwed it up. I did not do that at all. Now, maybe like 2 years ago, I would have done that. But I believe I remember very much blaming the technology and it. Now who bought the technology? That's yeah, I think we're gonna look at XSplit tonight. So if you guys don't know, we use OBS, and we've been using OBS for a while. We've bounced back and forth. We've XSplit, we use OBS, we've XSplit, use OBS. TLDR, I think we're gonna go back to trying using XSplit again. OBS is nice. It's cool that it's free, but like for what we do and how we build our stream, it just doesn't work that great. Anyways, all right, so let's get back into this. So last night, if you don't recall, we will say continuing, or sorry, let me do this instead. So last night, if you don't recall, if you go to the wiki, let's go to the wiki, right? Everybody go to the wiki. There you go, there's the link. Last night, we created a new VOD as I streamed for implementing Pulumi resource libraries. Now, the whole idea here, last night was a focus stream, actually, so I was really just spending time working. I wasn't really talking too much. That's why, like, oh, you can't even see it because it's perfectly placed. But you can see here, like, the keyboard is on camera, not me. These focus streams are streams that I do every now and then. They're kind of meant to be like a co-working environment where we can hang out together and I can really just focus on what I'm trying to do. So if you guys are curious about what I'm looking at, that's the link right there. So yesterday we started out by creating Kubernetes automation for local development environments, starting with the API service. So we said, okay, the real goal here is that we want to create Kubernetes automation for an API service. Now, what we really want to do is, and I can kind of refactor this a little bit because I think it makes more sense, is we want to create a new repository for shared Polumi resources. Yo, Jax, what's up, man? How's it going, buddy? And so what we talked about here was, all right, that's cool that we're gonna, kind of take this like module approach of saying like, all right, we know that we have multiple projects of automation, right? Not just one repository, but multiple repositories of automation. And we know that we also want to not just simply take like an API service and be like, okay, it's now in this repository. Cool, I could use that everywhere. And then like figure out how to hack it to work everywhere, right? But what we're really going to do is we're going to define a DSL that, or a configuration or schema that allows us to define our services, right? So that, for example, if I wanted to, have a whole brand new developer come onto the team and say, okay, I want to deploy a new service, it should be very simple. It should be something as simple as just copying a configuration, making a couple changes, and then, creating that singular resource that will then create all of the underlying resources as well. So we use resource components they're the majority of these resources as well. And so that's where we're going to be really focusing in. And we did start that, right? We took a look at some of the things and we kind of broke it down. So we said our focuses are creating Kubernetes automation for local development environments, starting with the API service. And with that, we said, okay, well, we want to create a new repository for shared resources to create services and other Quirk infrastructure from, is what we'll say. And so to add on to this a bit, this is where we talk about, okay, we want to start to implement like a domain language or configuration against schema, whatever you want to call it, that is unique to us, that allows us to define what these look like. And so we did that. We created a Quirk Pulumi shared repository, and I'm not going to keep it as shared because I don't really like the word shared when we're talking about it. What I meant to actually call this was, where is it? Oh, I did call it resource. Okay, yeah, it's Quirk Polumi resource. So in here, this is our repository that maintains essentially all of that logic, right? So we're talking about, okay, I want to create a service. You would import that service, class from this repository or this module, right? Or if you want a cloud function, you wouldn't go and just like create cloud function from scratch. You would use this. You'd use this instead. I'm trying to refactor some of this here just so that it looks a little bit better for you guys. So just give me 1 second. Actually, I think I kind of want to let's do this. How you doing though, Jax? What's up, man? I want to say for the record, by the way, that I don't ping you guys on Twitter to get your attention. It's more to just like share your information. So yeah, sorry if I bug you all the time. I just love the product, man. It's good stuff. But thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. Where was, okay, hold on. Let's do this. We love it. Keep it coming. Yeah, I imagine the free advertising is nice. No, I'm just using. Yeah, no, I totally will. I love, honestly, like I said, I love the product and I love using it. Also, I usually use common instead of shared because I also hate shared. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I hate naming those type of libraries. So I'm glad and that's why like I kind of went for more like a components or resources or resource or something like that. So you at least kind of have, some type of, I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page with that. Yeah, I hate naming stuff. Okay, so let me, like I said, I'm just trying to refactor some of this like agenda list here so that you guys can have a better understanding of how to, grok it. So what we did after we created that repository that I just showed you, again, Quirk Polumi resource, whatever you want to call it. We then started to implement a simple DSL for the services. Now I keep saying DSL because I honestly picked that up from Avi. It's just a common thing that we use at Hippo as a term for just like our own schema, our own configuration, whatever. But the TLDR on this is I don't want to start just putting resources into files here, right? When we talk about abstracting automation, what we really want to focus on is like, what do we want to standardize, right? How do we want it to be standardized, right? And then like, how do we want it to be configured, right? We really just want to be able to give very simple interfaces for people to use and say like, okay, this is the name, this is the environment, this is the bam, there's your service, done, right? So we needed to determine the types of services that we want to define. And this, for example, could be like front end, back end, right, etc. And to determine that, these services have to have the same structures of resources, right? So the idea here is that they would share the same service type, or we would use that like template for them. So if it was like a front end, for example, right, it would have, a namespace in the Kubernetes cluster. It would probably have a simple deployment of like an Nginx service. We really probably wouldn't need too many things like secrets or config maps or stuff like that, because it's really just a running container, right? So that's where it differs from something like a backend service that's like, name and environment, sure, which are same, but then we've got like config map data for, service level configurations. And then we've got secret data for things like service data. Or service secrets and stuff like that. So that's where they start differing. And even that, we can then say like, okay, backends go even further and sometimes need to be exposed to other backends, which means that we need to create a service for it. That's something that we don't normally create, right? And so we start dissecting those parts. And so that's where you could see here where I kind of said like, okay, well, to understand those structures of resources or whatever and types and stuff, let's look at like two main things here, which are the first thing are the attributes, right? Like what are the unique, we could say the unique values, right, of a specific service, right? What are the unique values that we want to provide this service configuration before we deploy it? And so you can see like name, stack, config map data, image, service, Cloudflare A record, secret. And so the whole idea here is that instead of me going to like Pulumi.com, as much as you should, right, and then being like, okay, how do I do, the Kubernetes, create a name, instead of doing all of that and be like, how do I create a namespace and do da-da-da, right? What we're saying is we will have our own resources, right, that if you provided the name, the stack name, a config map data, which is object, a secret data, which is an object, an image, which is a string, a service, which is a Boolean to turn on, right? We're not saying, okay, go and create a service, but we're simply saying, well, if you want a service, just enable it, right? We know how to create all those resources for you. We just want to know if you need it or not, right? Same thing for an A record. This is something that needs to be publicly exposed. If it does, then we need to give it a Boolean so that it can be. And same thing with the secret, right? Jwt Secret. This is a unique thing. This is something that is for intercommunication between services. Or I'm sorry, intercommunication between services, right? So do we want to be able to provide that authentication so that services can communicate with each other or not, right? And again, these are just the attributes, right? So if we take a next step further, we say, all right, well, those are like the values that we need. What are the actual resources that we need? And these attributes really coincide with resources in it, right? So a namespace, which is required, would get a name, right? A config map would get config map data, right? A secret service would get secret data, right? Secret image pull, that's always there. That will just be there no matter what. Those are the image pull authentication credentials. Secret JWT, again, that's that. Do we want to allow this service to talk with the rest of our cluster or not option, right? Deployment, which is required, that will always be there. The service optional, right? We said here, we want to be able to enable a service or not. And then the record, right? Optional, so that we can create a Cloudflare record or not. And we're not saying like, all right, what are these, configurations around this? We're just simply saying that these are one-to-one, name, string, bam, right? Config map data, just an object. It can be, and this can be, any is okay here, right? Any is okay here because we don't necessarily have a strict schema here. We can give it anything we want. So it's okay if these are any types in the TypeScript world. So yeah, and so once we did that, before even writing a single line of code, we wrote all of this out so that we could kind of understand what we needed to write, right? And then what we started to do was to create our first reusable service type resource, right? And the goal being that we should be able to import this in both Quirk Service API and Quirk Polumi Kubernetes to create the new API service deployments. VS Code, yeah, I opened it just for a second because it's easier to like format things sometimes. And it's because I was formatting a document. So I wasn't even coding in it. I was just using it as like an actual text editor. Yeah. No, don't worry. We're good. We're good. I just wanted to fix that really quickly. I do that sometimes. It's easier to use that sometimes when we're talking about like a ton of like YAML documents and stuff. Okay, cool. So this was yesterday, right? This was all yesterday. So if you guys are curious on any of that VOD and how we started, check out that right there. Okay? Sound good? So you don't have to, again, you don't have to feel like you don't know what's happening or, anything like that. You can more than easily hop back through that VOD and kind of catch up if you need to. So let's talk about today, right? Today. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up where we left off from, and then we'll say implementing Pulumi resource libraries. Implementing, I did not spell that right. Pulumi resource libraries. It got rid of my, okay, hold on. Let me at least spell it right before there we go. Implementing Pulumi resource libraries stream. What tool are you using to write the agenda? It's called Notion. There you go. Pick up where we left off, implementing license stream, and then we'll say finish creating our first service resource component. And we're actually. So here's a question, Jax, since you're here. What do you guys like? And this is just a personal question. Like I'll end up using whatever I like, anyways. But I am curious. Do you guys like around the terminology of like resource library? Like, do you guys like the idea of it being more of like a resource library, or do you like it being more called like reusable components because that's what they actually normally are, right? I guess like the term around the word. Like, are these more to be thought of as libraries or more of like, like a front end, almost like components thought process for that? And then I guess in the naming convention. Hi, Nix. Component is the official word. Okay. So what we should say is resource components. We should say reusable. Reusable resource components. Reusable components? Yeah, we'll just say reusable components. Packages are multi-language components. Right, yeah, and I'm not using an actual package. Yeah, this is one language per one language, yeah. Is that an official app? Seems like, oh, no, it's totally on Mac. There's like 9 friends of mine that I know that use it on Mac. It's totally on Mac, yeah. So what would you suggest, Jax? And for anybody who's watching the YouTube VOD, I'm speaking to a person who works at Polumi. What would you call like a library that was in the same? You know what I mean? Like we like not going the package route, but like again more something like this. Like I'm gonna lean on the language and use that as a reusable library. I hate Notion's dark mode single backtick syntax highlighting. It's just not as good as the light mode. Wait, what? Dark mode single backtick syntax highlighting. You mean that it's not as prominent? Yeah, I mean it's dark mode, so yeah, I guess I get that. Can you share the wallpaper? It's in my dot files. Check it out. All you gotta do is do !dot files. Shabam. And then you will see a really cool repository. Now, I want to note, I'm going to be releasing, and I know I keep talking about it, but I've been working on it like for a long time because it's a really good video. But I've been working on a video regarding this repository so that you guys will be able to understand it more. But essentially what I did was I turned all of my dot files into an Ansible playbook, right? And so the whole idea here is that instead of just copying files or like symlinking or anything, I run Ansible on my computer and it automates everything for me. It sets everything up. So if you wanted to, for example, like know my wallpaper, right? You could go to roles. And I use something called Nitrogen. Nitrogen is what actually manages like how my wallpaper is set and stuff like that. And if you go to files, you will see every single one of the wallpapers I've ever used actually in here as well. So if you wanted to see my Windows wallpaper, which is the wonderful Ed from Cowboy Bebop, then you would just click on that. Boop, and there you go. You now have Ed. Just use Nix OS. Why? I don't know. I mean, I want to try it. I'm interested in trying it, but I like Arch, man. I really like Arch a lot. And I'm not even saying that as like a fanboy as much as, you know, I know that comes out that way, but like I actually really have enjoyed using Arch. We call it a component still, but I'm not going to die on the hill. The reason it's a component and not a library is because we support languages that have library as a reserved term like .NET. That makes sense. Okay, so, but it wouldn't really be, we call it a component, but still, So what would you, so it'd just be components then. Yeah, right? It'd just be components, right? That's what we're thinking. Why do you prefer Neovim over VS Code? So that's another thing I will be expounding on later. But I mean, the TLDR is I started out in my programming life, career, whatever, like 30 years ago, whatever, 25 years ago, I should say, in the terminal, right? And working in like prompts and stuff. So it was very much like just what I liked using. And then when I got older, I used like Dreamweaver and blah, 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 you know, all that stuff, Sublime, you know, whatever. And so it just got to a point where I got introduced to Vim, actually. And I realized that it was something that was a whole new landscape of interesting, like learning possibilities and things like that. And so I just started doing it. I just started using it more and more and more. And then what became really cool about Vim was just that it was also completely customizable. You know what I mean? It was also like saying like, okay, cool, here's a car and you can build it any way you want. And so that was even more of a, you know, awesome reason for me to be super interested in it, you know? So yeah, you know, it's just, it kind of became this passion of learning. And every time I learned something new, it just became more fun. Yeah, I just didn't really get that with VS Code, you know? Now, was it like easy? No, God, no, it was challenging. It was super challenging. But, you know, it did also, and this is what I would say is really one of the biggest reasons to using Neovim or Vim, whatever. You really just use nothing but the keyboard. I don't have my keyboard cam up today, but I have a Moonlander. If you do ! Keyboard in chat, you can see it. It's a split key. You know, it's your typical nerdy split keyboard. Yeah, you know, being somebody who also likes using their keyboard all the time is, you know, it's super nice. Okay, so that means that this is components. Yeah, Quirk Pulumi components. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate that, by the way, Jax. Thank you, man. Because here's the thing, dude. If I'm going to be, like, educating people and at some level at least knowing you guys, I want to make sure that I'm not, like, not on the same terminology at least, because I hate that. I hate it when people educate people about products and then they use... I'm even, like, I do it time to time, like... But I think having that, like, accuracy and, like, no, this is a this is a that, like, it helps with the learning process. So I appreciate that. I saw I will say I saw the component, like, you know, reused word and, like, you know, the docs and stuff. And so it did seem like component was more of the thought approach. But yeah, that's really why. I really care about the distro. I just installed Nix on it anyways as the package manager in i3. I see. I haven't used Nix as like really at all, so I don't know much about it. I know that it's a package manager, and I know that you can do cool things with it, and it's very portable and stuff like that. But that's really all I know. So I should give it a shot. Honestly, here's the thing, Nix. If I end up using it, you know me. I'll end up falling in love with it, like completely automating it, like going to the extreme core with it, and then I'll just share it with all you guys. So it's only a matter of time before I use it, and then you end up, you know, seeing me use it or not, right? Like That's happened so many times on Twitch. Like, I don't want to take credit for anything because my friends have wonderful tastes and I've had so many like suggestions from them. But like we all do that, right? We all share like stuff with each other and then like eventually, whatever. I'm over Pulumi, by the way. Oh yeah, are you? I warned you. Hey, here's the thing. You can't get mad at me because I warned you. I didn't tell you to start with Pulumi. I told you to stick with Terraform. You did. I did. What happened? Why don't you like what? So here's what's funny, Jordan, is we have somebody from Polumi in chat. So I would be really curious. Oh, okay. So I cannot speak on behalf of the organization of it but themselves. But from my experience, I have noticed that some of the providers can be wonky. That's normally it's like Terraform, right? The people who manage the provider. I don't know if that's an official one or not. IAM attachment is really broken. It really loses policy attachment. It literally loses a policy. It literally loses policy attachment. What do you mean by it loses policy attachment? I'm curious on what you mean by that. It loses policy attachment. What are you attaching them to? Most of the providers are bridged from Terraform. Yes, that's also true. Well, there you go. By the way, Jordan, Jax is really dope. He's been really supportive and cool and like around the community. We're also on Twitter and talk and stuff. So yeah. He also works at Polumi directly. So I don't know if that might help, but you define an IAM policy, attach it to a role. Okay, so hold on. Let's do this really quickly because I want to help out. I did suggest, well, it was one of my suggestions. Let's do AWS IAM. So this is what you're using, yeah? This resource right here. To start, at least the role. Like, I just want to make sure I'm in the right spot. I think this is the solution. Oh, okay. Are identified by URN. Two resources are different if they have different. Wait, two resources are different if they have different URNs, and create, update, deletes are determined based on that. This is an old one. Holy crap, it's from 2018. There are some resources, though, which do not have any fixed nominal identity in the source provider. Particularly, the AWS provider has several attachment resources, such as... Okay, this is true. Yeah. This resource isn't really a resource in AWS. It's just a request to add during create or remove during... Oh, right. This is... Yeah. This is right. If and only if, by the way. What's up? How's it going, bud? If resource isn't really a resource in AWS, yeah, all right, I already read that. That means that these role attachment resources aren't really structural resources. If I already have an association between a role and a policy, oh, I already know what's going on here. I see. I see what's going on here. Yeah. Interesting. That's a bug. Well, I don't want to say a bug, but that's interesting. Once I read that, I don't really... Okay, yeah. So then when you would... okay, and then it would just drift. That's interesting. Oh, let me read the fix. That's right. I believe I'm hitting this. I see. So was it just like moving it essentially? Like it'd be attached to one thing and then it'd get attached to another thing and then attached to another thing and then attached to another thing? Oh man, if that's the case, that's fun. That would be challenging. That would... Interesting. We like preliminary. That's a good word. I did manage a workaround this morning. Okay. Provider, parent, self-provider. Attachment, groups list, policy. but I would prefer giving my resources more recognizable names. Oh, I see. So what's funny, I think the issue here is because of having to create resources inside of an apply. I never run into this because I type the IAM documents as an IAM policy document. Interesting. Huh. Yo, what's up, Zizep? I mean, you said you moved to CDK, so did you move everything to CDK already, Jordan? I think it just loses attachment when you restructure resources. Interesting. Not fully yet, but 90% on CDK Nano. Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, I am not somebody who tries to be massively biased. I love both Terraform and Pulumi. I use Polumi again, and this is what I told you, Jordan, which is I've also just used Polumi for Kubernetes. And I really like it for just Kubernetes. At least, you know, from my knowledge of it, you know. I have not delved deep into the AWS provider, you know what I mean? And I have not delved deep heavily into the Azure. Like, all of my cloud automation is still in Terraform. But yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense, man. I'm glad to hear at least like you were able to. I'm sorry to hear that you had to refactor. That's a bummer, but you know, CDK will be good for you. Like, no matter what, like, CDK supports AWS Media. Yeah. No, I was going to say, like, CDK will be good for you no matter what as well, because Terraform's got a really strong push. I mean, they've got, what's really nice about Polumi is that it bridges all of Terraform's resources, right? So you get that out of the box, which is super great. But yeah, I mean, you know, there are other benefits to Terraform as well. So yeah. The Matt Stratton, what's up, man? How's it going? Thank you. Well, I mean, it's cool that you tried it, though. It is cool that you tried it. We don't care what you use as long as it's strongly typed. We love CDK. It has an interesting origin story. Yeah, it does. I mean, I hope, you know, listen, here's what I'm going to say, plain and simply. I hope both Polumi and Terraform keep competing. I do. Because it's going to make you guys both make really good products for us. So I'm sorry to say it, but I hope there continues to be a rivalry there. I think that, well, I don't want to say rivalry, but you know, I hope that there's continually like inspiration from each other and growth and you know, hype and like I hope so, because like the worst thing that we can have is just like one product. And to be honest with you, I was talking about this on stream the other day, Jax. Like the CI ecosystem right now, like the CI/CD ecosystem in general, is really lacking. It's massively lacking, unfortunately. And I was really bummed about that. Like I went through it and I was just like, man, like it's not a lot of options here. So I mean, it's awesome that we have options like Polumi and Terraform, honestly. And Jordan, here's what I would say too, dude. If you get to a point where you do need to manage at least Kubernetes and stuff, like the way that I do abstractions in my automation, like they can run side by side, you know. It's like I have, you know, again, my cloud resources created with Terraform, that all runs, and then I run all of my Polumi automation on top of it, or vice versa. All I'm gonna say is like, don't feel like you have to convert everything, you know what I mean, to solve the problem. Though I know you know, probably know that. Yeah, we're doing it at Hippo right now, and it's like it's super solid. Like I said, we do use both at Hippo. We use Pulumi and Terraform, and we use Terraform CDK actually. So yeah, like we have specific use cases all over the place. Right now we're super AWS native. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. By the way, shout out to Vape Juice Jordan. If you guys don't know him, awesome dude, working on a really cool project called Blip, which is what we're talking about. All right, cool. So let's get back into this. So Quirk, Pulumi component, node, Nunjux looks good. Kubernetes, Pulumi, and Nunjux. Okay, cool. So we're going to do a yarn really quickly. I have a CloudFormation template in my Pulumi stack. Seems fine. Yeah, absolutely. I have Helm charts in my Pulumi automation. Like, you can mix and match automation all you want, you know. You just solve the problem wherever you need it. Isn't CDK based on CloudFormation? No. Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't say no because I'm not 100% on this, but we're talking about Terraform. Wait, hold on. Let me be clear. My bad. Amazon. Are you using Amazon CDK, Jordan, or Terraform CDK? I hate the fact that they both went with the same. I'm using Amazon CDK. Oh, snippety snap. You went with AWS CDK? Oh, God. Why? Oh, Jordan, I love you, but why? Oh, man. Oh, wow. Okay. I see why you went this route. I've built infrastructure in CDK before. It's really good. Changed my mind. Okay, let's talk about nested stacks for one. Let's talk about like any type of interoperability of even seeing what's in the resources in those nested stacks. Because here's the thing, with Terraform CDK or with Amazon CDK, you can't just manage normal stacks. They suggest for you to do nested stacks so that they store those in S3. However, when you do that, you can't even review any of the plans or any of your diffs or any of your changes because it's nested in JSON. There's my first one. Should I keep going? Because I could splurge on how much I hate that. I'm sorry. I built a whole massive migration to CDK. It's probably better now, to be honest with you. It's probably better now. I built it like 2 years ago. But oh man, I see why you did it though. Because it has everything natively right there, and that makes complete sense. L2 constructs are really nice, and it supports all of the features we use. Yeah, I was about to say, that makes sense for sure, that it supports all the features we use. I was about to say, yeah, that's another one for sure. Getting stuck in a rollback scenario, that's tough. Drift is... They have tools around Drift, but, you know, I would say watch out for Drift. But I mean, yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense as to why you would use this, especially because I would imagine there's probably not a lot of support for like the media side of things. Yeah, the Drift tools aren't good. I know. Trust me, I know. But yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's the thing with TF Polumi, we need to manually configure. Yeah, I see what you're saying. The Drift tools are, yeah, wait, I already read that, sorry. I want to say, if anyone has enough money and headcount to push the development of AWS CDK, it's Amazon. Yeah, right. It's a solid fine 10 really? Oh, okay. I mean, maybe I'll have to look at it again. Like I said, I was spoiled with things like Terraform and Pulumi and like being able to like see plans nicely. And like one of the things that was challenging for sure, and maybe you just don't deal with this as much because I don't know how many like stacks, for example, you have, Jordan. But like I was doing heavy layers of abstraction to where like I had like stacks that were like reusable stacks and those were nested. It was, you know, it's one of the reasons why that migration to AWS CDK is entirely the reason why I said like be careful with language-based automation in general, because like if you don't know, you know, your abstractions or at least like a good understanding of infrastructure, which I mean I know you do, then you can really shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Good isolation will definitely help for sure. Hell yeah, man. I'd like to, I mean, hey, listen, I showed you mine. So, hey, if you ever want to show me yours, I'd be interested in seeing the automation on that. If it's okay to share. If it's not, it's fine. But I would actually love to see the implementation of the CDK stuff on it. I'd be interested. The AWS native provider will have full support for all AWS resources once Amazon publishes the API. Gotcha. Did I miss anybody? Yes, keep going. No, I'm good. I got triggered. I got triggered by that migration. Okay, anyways. All right, so let's keep moving. Yeah, I mean, right now it's like 2 Fargate services and a couple of oh, yeah, dude, you're solid. Dude, you could build that in anything. It wouldn't matter. But having the support there is massively important. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Hell yeah. Like I said, if it is something I could see, I'd be super interested in seeing in seeing it. But again, it's not. If it is what you say, it's also not that big of a deal. All right, chat. So let's talk about what we got going on here, right? So we are picking up where we left off of implementing Pulumi reusable components. The stream we did last night. And we want to finish creating our first service reusable component, right? So here's our service type, right? And this is the options that we provide to the service. And then here's our service class, right? And this is the actual component that we use to use in our automation, and it creates all of the resources for us. So if we start at the very top, let's look at the document first, right? Let's go back to the wiki here, right? Where'd we go? Where are you? Here we go. I called it resource library here, so I'll have to update that or something. We'll see. But if we go back to this document here, we'll see that in the attributes, we've got name, stack, config map data, secret data, image, service, Cloudflare A record, secret JWT, right? We've got a list of attributes. Hold on. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure I was good at work. Okay. We have a list of attributes here, right? Name, stack, all this stuff. Well, if we look at the code, you might notice something, which is most of these have been defined in what we call our service options type. And the reason for that is because this was the whole goal, right? We wanted a very simple interface that other developers who want to use our resources or deploy resources in with our company, like I said. So, for example, right, if somebody came to Alta4 and was like, I want to, and I went to them, I was like, hey, welcome. I want you to deploy a service for me, right? Here's the docs. Here's how you do it. Go do it, right? It shouldn't be a circumstance where it's like, oh, I'm navigating through, Pulumi documentation and all of these other things to try and solve this problem. It should be, okay, we've got some, standardized components, a library. It should be something where I should be able to just import this thing, configure it a little bit, and then bam, I have and again, we're not talking about just a deployment here. What we're talking about is like the namespace, the compartmentalization of the resource in the stack, the configuration, how that's injected, the standardization of having a config map and a secret port per service, right? Like all of these opinionations and things that we're doing, right? We want to be able to do that. And so this interface or these configuration options allow us to tell the service component what we want it to do. I do not speak Spanish. I'm sorry, bud. I haven't used Terraform for over 2.5 years. I have nightmares, actually. I mean, Terraform, I use Terraform every day. The wiki is sweet. Is that discourse? It is. Yeah, it is actually. And it's self-hosted. It's hosted in our data center. So that's pretty cool too. So let's go ahead and look at these options here. So in our document, we said that if we go back to it, if we go back to our document, we said that we need a name, right, for the name of the service, right? So where's that? It's actually the first parameter. So it's not in options, but it's the first parameter. And the reason for that is because I like that naming convention that Pulumi does, or I'm sorry, that structure that Pulumi does, where it's like the first parameter is always the name, right? And then the second thing is the options. And so the first parameter, bam, name. Cool, we got name. Now stack. Now, stack for us is technically environment, but because I want to stick with the Pulumi naming convention because we're using Pulumi, and if there's a circumstance where like I deploy, I don't know, something that's like not an environment or something else, stack kind of just makes more sense here. So I'm going to stick with stack for now, but maybe in the future, if I decide to, it might become environment. But those things are really interoperable here, right? Stack or environment, and you can see here, stack string, right? So that's our first value in our service options that we brought over, right? The next value is config map data. Well, we said in our resources, we need to standardize every service getting a config map, right? That's required. Now, what does this mean? It means that if we create a service and it's completely got nothing in its configuration, then it will get a generated config map with nothing in it, right? So that's the thing we want to note here is we really want to say all of these services should be getting config data. If they're not, maybe it's a different service type or something like that. But because of that, we don't have to say like, okay, enable config map true or false. We simply say, okay, what is the data that we want to pass to that config map? And we do so in the configuration. And so you can see here, there's that second value. Remember, I told you this is any because that's okay. We don't know what the structures are going to be passed out to this, at least yet. Maybe in the future, we can have better definitions around like, you know, different schema types or different types that we can pass into this and have more defined structures. For now, any's fine. So we'll go to the next thing, secret data, right? Well, we said the same thing about config map to secret, right? Which is every service is going to have some type of secrets. It's going to have a encrypted password or a database password or something, right? It's all going to have those kind of things. And so for us to be able to provide a secret every time to the service, we need secret data. And so we do that here with secret string data. Now we use the word string data instead of just secret data because technically in the Kubernetes spec, it's called string data. It's not called data. And so to follow just the exact naming where we can say like, look, config map, right? Config map data, right? We can also say secret string data. So that's why they're named the way that they are. And so now we've got secret string data in here as well. If we keep moving forward, we'll have image. Image is very simple, right? Image is just a string, which is the URL or sorry, not the URL, the image tag reference of the container that we're running or for the container we're running, right? And then the next thing after that is the service, right? Do we want this to have a service? Now, service options dot service enabled, not my favorite, but for right now, since I'm just speccing this and I know that this is an actual Kubernetes service, I'm going to keep it. Now, there is another option we could do, which is, and this, I had this last night, but doing something like this where we'd say like, okay, if I want to configure like Kubernetes specific things, then I could be like Kubernetes and then service, right, Boolean, and then that'll make it so that it's enabled or not. But if we do that, then we have to move essentially all of this as well, right? Like this goes here. This goes here, which, I mean, I'm not mad at. We can leave it like this if we want to, but you get my drift. Yeah. There we go. Secret data WT, secret string data, Pulumi, and stack. So yeah, so now we can say like Kubernetes, config map data, image, secret data WT, secret string, and now we have a scoped set of parameters just for Kubernetes. Outside of that, we need to talk about the Cloudflare A record. So we said that some of these node services do have exposed routes, right? Like we want them to be on the internet, that people can hit them, things like that. So we need to be able to generate a Cloudflare A record. So that's an optional thing. And so we have in here Cloudflare as a Boolean, right? Now, again, these are just very simple, but in the future, I might have much better defined names here. I'm just, again, leaving this the way it is because it's just easier for me to have all this laid out. The names don't mean anything right now. It's just making sure we have those spaces there, essentially. And then the last one is secret JWT, which is, again, that whole, we want to be able to make it so that we can have services communicate with each other or not. I'm good, Gilbert. How are you? How is that redundant cooling and power in the data center? It's pretty good. It's called the garage, and it works great. Thank you, Ismat. I appreciate that. Thanks for the information on Circle CI. It is much easier than doing these things on AWS. My life has improved. Oh, no way. You're welcome, all in winter. Of course. I mean, hey, you did the work, man. I just gave you a small tip. That's all. So I'm glad to hear that your life has improved. And thank you for the 5 months, man. Thank you. Terraform CDK is stable enough for use in complex infrastructure like RDS and EDKs. I feel like a lack of documentation and examples. So I cannot entirely comment on that because I didn't do the CDK implementation at my work. My coworker and one of our mods, Orca, who is not here right now. Oh my gosh, dude. You didn't have to do that, man. Thank you so much. Yo, on winner, thank you so much for the 10 gifted subbies. Rindrop, Estranged, Knickers, Kmerk, Codespent. What's up, Codespent? Seb, Laser or LaRazor, Mac, Dennis, Big Red. Please, guys, be sure to thank Owen Winner for your gift, dude. Thank you so much for that. Again, you don't owe us anything, man. I'm just happy to hear that again, good automation can definitely make your life a lot easier. So, thank you, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, please be sure to thank Owen Winner if you got a gifted sub, man. Dude, thank you so much. That was very kind of you. Thank you. Kind of broke me there for a second. So yeah, I mean, the documentation is not the greatest for sure when it comes to CDK because it's just not as mature as a, product as like just the regular like HCL CDK or I'm sorry, HCL Terraform is. Like I said, I didn't do a whole bunch of implementing with the Terraform CDK at Hippo. So I would say if you ever see Orca, and Orca is in our Discord, by the way. So if you do Discord, there you go. And if you want to hop in our Discord, and you can @reply Orca, he's one of our mods, and you can talk to him about it. He's like I said, he's in our Discord. He's able to talk. I have heard it. It's not bad. I mean, I know that again, Vape Juice Jordan is using it as well. So if you're interested, might as well try it. That's what I say. That's what I always say, honestly. Did I create the game Alta Fort? No, we've had this name for 3 years. Orca was the first to introduce us to Polumi, if I remember correctly. Yes, he was. Yeah, he won't let me live that down either. He will definitely not let me live that down. All right, so I'm going to undo this just because I think my point is explained, but I'm going to keep this the way it is. I think what we want is, what is a better way of defining this? I mean, we could just call it a record or record. Enable. I'm going to keep it the way it is for right now. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let's just get more of this foundational stuff done. Okay, so if we go into our service itself, like I said, we're not just standardizing the options, but we're also standardizing the resources that are created for these services as well. Oh, hey, Jax, I had another question for you, man. If you're still here, with regards to the naming here, if I deploy to, like, say, again, I'm going to deploy multiple of these services. Does this also have to be unique? Or is it just the name that has to be unique? If that makes sense. And I can't remember what this is. This is the type. Yeah, does the type have to be unique? So it's like I don't want it to be, right? Like I want this to just be a Quirk service. All of them are just Quirk services, right? And then I'm going to have like Quirk runner, like all of them will just, well, not runner, but worker. Like all of them will just be workers. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious and do I need package index the way it is? Or I don't know. I guess I should there's a document out there you could send me. That'd be fantastic. I don't want to have to make you write all of this information down, but I don't really know when it comes to the component resource, what exactly the layer of customization you have around this. Nice. We use used to wait. What we thought we wait. What in the CDK environment, but we feel more confident to keep the regular HCL Terraform. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No. I mean, I'll give everyone the same advice that I gave Jordan. If you are trying to, if you're at a large company where you have a bunch of people and you need, a really, really strong way to like manage your team, and be able to give insight into like a bunch of different things, you really can't beat Terraform Cloud right now. And I'm saying Terraform Cloud to start, right? I'm talking about as a company where you want to like manage all of your automation and all of that stuff. Terraform Cloud is is a really strong contender in the field right now. But I'm also talking about as a company with multiple people, that's an organization. Like they have a lot of really great features that are just focused on solving like enterprise, large company problems, right? When we talk about like HCL and other languages like or HCL and CDK, that's totally up to you. What I said, what I told Jordan is like HCL's been around for a long time. It's highly supported. There are companies that have been entirely built off of Terraform. You know what I mean? So if we're talking about just like not wanting to have to deal with edge cases like, provider issues or other things like that, right? Like just, again, we're talking about the bottom line, like money here really is all we're talking about. Terraform Cloud is a great approach, and HCL fits with it really well. The documentation is super strong. The support is super strong. Everybody's using it. You know what I mean? And take that what it will. Now, what I also said is Polumi, though, is very powerful in the sense of like what you can do with it because you're using a natural language. That's really the benefit, in my personal opinion. It's not like the providers are necessarily any better or worse or anything like that, but it's having it in a natural language that you can write this in. Now, if that's your goal, right, then HCL is kind of out of the box for you, right? You might want to do Terraform CDK, but that means that if you want to write it in an actual like programming language, there's a bunch of Polumi becomes much more of a competitor in that regard, I guess is what I mean to say. So that's why I structure it the way that I do, because if you're talking about the engineering side of things, then Pulumi becomes a much stronger contender, right? And there's a much more awesome possibilities of solving problems and things like that, right? But when you just talk about like the bottom line, like CTO almost side of things, you have to just go like, it's the equivalent of saying like, what are we going to run, or are we going to use the cloud or not? Because it's just, it's been around for a very long time. It's, everybody's using it. It's highly supported, and it's just easier to lean on. But it doesn't mean that other components of your system can't start benefiting from things like Polumi, introducing those into the companies. And so I imagine, again, this is my own personal perspective here, I imagine that, once Polumi has even matured more, right, and more adoption has evolved, which like it's gotten a lot of adoption from even what I've seen since I've gotten into using it, that I would imagine at some point they're just going to level each other out. You know what I mean? You'll have similar options here and here, and that enterprise solution will also eventually be, taken care of. So again, that's why I structure my response to that the way I do. Is it's not about which is the best piece of technology. It's entirely about what are your concerns. You know what I mean? What are you worried about? What are you focused on? And like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to do? And that's where it's completely like, I can use Polumi through my whole stack because I'm on Kubernetes and I've built the stack in the way that works perfectly for me, right? I don't have any problems with it, but I also don't use cloud providers that much, right? So I didn't run into that problem. So again, you got to try it yourself. That's my biggest suggestion. Yeah, it's called Bottom. Terraform Cloud slaps at large org. Yeah. Exactly. And using a bucket for state management is entirely useful for most people. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I'm really enjoying Pulumi because of just the really cool things I'm able to do with it. And again, like Kubernetes, at least this is the best way I've ever managed Kubernetes before. I love managing Pulumi or Kubernetes with Pulumi. So we'll see what happens when I get to, cloud providers. If we run into a lot of the same problems, we might. Who knows? All right, so let's talk about the resources now. Like I said, we've got our options standardized. Let's talk about the resources. So the first thing that we do with Polumi is we create a component resource, and the whole concept of a component resource is almost what it says. It is a component full of resources, right? And inside of this is the set of resources that we want to essentially have when we use this component, right? So we're talking about Kubernetes here and Kubernetes automation, right? So we want to, for a second, think about, okay, well, we know the parameters that we want to pass to this component resource. What are the actual resources we want in it now, right? So one thing that we kind of do, and I'll give a little bit more of a detailed deep dive here because I think this will help you guys understand. If we go to Alt F4 LLC in our Lucid charts, and then I just go and create a new chart here. I'm going to create a new chart for a second. All right, here we go. And we're going to call this Kubernetes service deployments. All right. And I'm going to show you in my favorite way, which you guys know is, creating sweet charts, what these deployments look like. So let's talk about the first thing, which is honestly the most important thing, the namespace, right? So in Kubernetes, and we'll actually even grab Kubernetes as well, Kubernetes cluster. Is there like another, see if I can grab another group thing here. Group, logical group of services, instant group, resource group. Oh, give me just like generic group. Perfect. Okay, cool. So this generic group, this big guy right here, we're going to say this is our Kubernetes cluster, right? So this is where all of our Kubernetes services run. Right now, again, we're just focusing on Kubernetes here. I'm not talking about clouds or anything like that, right? In this Kubernetes cluster, we have a namespace. Right. And in Kubernetes clusters, it's common to have namespaces. That's a very simple resource. Right. If you don't know what a namespace is, it is a logical scoping of resources. Now, namespaces don't really actually exist. They are just structures that allow you to put resources in a like group essentially, and then they're all isolated to that group or that namespace. So what we're saying to start is we want every service to be in its own service namespace, right? Now the reason for that is when you create a service namespace, it also has its own domain, right? And so for example, the domain would be like, I think it's like, let's say like service dot, I can't remember. It's like cluster dot local, whatever, something like that. I don't know. Whatever this, what is it? What's the Kubernetes internal domain? I can never remember what it is. Here it is. Yeah, this one right here. Cool. So what's going to happen is because Kubernetes also provides its own DNS, there will be a namespace lookup available. Here we go. 10. Why is it like, ugh. It's because it's got formatting on it. There we go. It will create a domain that is lookupable for not just a service, but the namespace as well. So it would be namespace.service.clusterlocal. So for example, if we created over here, if we just went over here for a second, and we created a new namespace, so our new namespace is called API, right? And as a matter of fact, this is going to be dev API because it's for the dev environment, right? That new namespace would look something like this. It would be dev API dot service dot cluster dot local, right? Now, this isn't a service itself. This is the namespace. So if I tried like looking up or connecting to the service here, this would fail. What this means is that any service that's created in this namespace will now be added to this domain, technically being something like this, or where the wildcard is the actual service. Or if we wanted to, we could say this, right? So what happens is when the API service is deployed to the dev API namespace or its own service namespace, the actual address in the cluster becomes api.dev-api service cluster.local. This allows us to run multiple, not only API services, but in their own environments, right? So for example, if we were to say like, okay, now we want to, deploy a production API, well, then that would go into the prod API service local, right? Now, the service name itself will never change, right? This API section right here, this will never change because that is standardized, right? If we deploy a WebSocket, right, it would be websocket.dev websocket.svc cluster.local, right? Now you might ask yourselves the question, okay, that's great, but like, why don't you just do, instead of like dev WebSocket or dev API or whatever, why don't you just do .dev, right? Like, why don't you just put everything in a dev namespace, right? Or in a dev domain? Well, that's because I would have to have all of those in a namespace, and this would no longer become a service namespace, but this would actually be an environment namespace, right? And so that would be like env.service.cluster.local. Now, the reason why I don't want to do this, right? Like, what's the benefit of having everything in its own service namespace versus just saying like, make it easy, have environments in their own namespaces and call it a day, right? Like, what's the difference between these two? In this scenario, I have the possibility of having conflictions or duplicate resources. So let's say, for example, I need to deploy not just a simple service, but I need to deploy like a microservice with its own database and some other things as well, right? Well, if I do it in an environment namespace, then I need to make sure that we don't have collisions with any of the resources in that environment namespace, right? I can't have the same name. I need to make sure that the configurations themselves are variants enough to where that they don't, collide with each other. I also want to make sure that we keep to the standardization of saying like, each secret gets its own, or each service gets its own secret in its own config map. We don't want to share config maps and services between secrets, right? We really want this super, super nice isolated resource deployment, or these super nice resource deployments that are super isolated, right? And so doing an environment namespace, though most of you might go like, oh yeah, no, let's just do that. It just does not work as well when we talk about really scaling out, having like sidecar services, bunch of other things to be able to add and make it really easy to manage these things. So we go with the approach of a service namespace because one, you can't put namespaces in namespaces. That's not possible. You can't do that with Kubernetes. If you could, then you could actually have an environment namespace with a bunch of service namespaces in it. But you can't do that, right? Namespaces are like flat, essentially. And so the idea here is that this type of isolation on the right allows you to, instead of having like a bunch of services in here and resources all shared together, now it's a service namespace with its own specific service. If we need to give it a database, well, then that database is also in that namespace. So for example, if I was to say, oh, I want the, API to have its own database, which is something we really do want to do, and we're going to kind of restructure this a bit, then that would mean that dev API would not just have API, but then it would also have Postgres, right? And that would now have a Postgres.dev API service. So do you see what I'm saying by just because this is API, it doesn't necessarily mean it's just the API service. It means that it's the whole like deployment for that API service, anything that's needed to go with it. And again, if we added something else, if the service needed Redis and nothing else used Redis, then it would be the Redis instance inside of the Redis service inside of the dev API namespace. So that is why we're following this convention of like service namespaces. So we're going to get rid of this for a second, and we'll go back to this, right? Now, the next thing that we can say, or the next thing we can focus on is say like, okay, well, we've got this service namespace. That's awesome. What else do we need? Well, before I answer your question, sir, just give me 1 second. Basically, I just said a few moments ago that I don't want to share secrets and configurations between services. I have done this. And if you have done this too, you probably have dealt with the scenario where you have been like, oh, okay, where is the same, like, where is the same value here as it was here? Like, I need to figure out, like, what was it? And you find yourself in this scenario where you're like debugging things constantly because like something's not here that was there, vice versa, or whatever. So when we talk about like standardization and we talk about isolation, and focus of what's it called, separation of concerns, right? If I'm only concerned about this service, then I only want this service to have whatever it needs. That's it, right? I don't want this service to like interact with any other service. I want to be able to say, okay, new service namespace, you have everything you need now, right? Now that doesn't mean that the service won't have to talk to other services, right? But that does mean that those other services should be in their own namespaces. And then we talk to those services through their namespaces. So if we're talking about one service, we can say, okay, well then what is in this service? And it becomes, again, pretty straightforward now, or what's in this service namespace, where we say like, all right, well, we need, we're going to need a config map, right? Here's our config map. So we'll say, config map, right? Why is that? Okay, there we go. Config map, right? Now this is in this namespace. And then we'll say we also need a secret, right? And if we go any further, or if we go further, it's not just one secret. This is the secret for the service itself, right? And then this is the secret for, what was the other secret we had? The image pull. The image pull secret. Right? So now you can see we're starting to like put all of these resources in this namespace. So we can keep going, right? So we'll say like, okay, we've got our config map, we've got our secret JWT, image pull. Now what's cool is like, now we could say like this one, right? We'll say JWT, right? This one is optional. So, I don't know why that's freaking out like that. So what we could do is we could say this one, or maybe here, oops. Optional, put it there. JWT. And so now what we're saying is that not only I don't know why this freaks out like this sometimes, but it does. Not only are we saying that we have resources that will always be in the namespace, but we also have resources that will sometimes be in the namespace, right? Like our JWT secret. Okay, and then what else do we have? Let's go back to our list. So service, image pull, JWT. Do we have 3 secrets? Yes, we do. Yep. Okay, deployment, service, and record. So now, go this, deployment for the service, right? And then once more, we have a record, which is optional, and that is for the service too, right? So now we have this completely portable namespace with all of the server or all of the resources inside of it for this service, right? So that whenever I check inside of this namespace, right, I should see a config map. I should see a secret for the service. I should see a secret for the image pull. I should see a secret for JWT. I should see a deployment for the service, and I should see a record optionally. Now, this would actually not be in the namespace. This would be technically created in Cloudflare, so we don't really have to worry about that right now. But these would be in Kubernetes, right? All of these would be in Kubernetes. Oh, you know what? Nope, we need one more thing. My bad. We can change this with something else. So this is the service, which is optional for the service. But yeah, and so this is what makes it so that other deployments can communicate, internally to that deployment here. So what would happen if we went a little bit further is we would say like our deployment goes to our config map, our deployment goes to our secret, our deployment goes to our other secret, our deployment goes to our other secret, and then this service goes to our deployment. So it looks like this when we've got everything together. 1, 2. Oh, come on, man. Let me click on the little guy right there. Right. Come on. Come on. Let me click on it. Let me click. There we go. Got it. I got it, chat. I got it. Oh, wait. Wait, what? How did I draw 2 of them? Oh, my God. Okay. There we go. Boop, boop. So there we go. There's our service namespace. And again, so you can see config map gets created, secret for the service gets created, secret for image pull gets created, secret for JWT optionally gets created, which we can say here we'll make little dotty lines to say optional. And then this is also optional as well. Right? Just like that. And so there we go. This is now in every service deployment. So if you were to say, hey, BG, or no, actually, if I was to say, hey, chat, thanks for coming to work at Alt-F4 LLC. I really appreciate it. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take one of our existing service resources and go deploy yourself a brand new service. By the time you finished deploying that service in our Kubernetes cluster, you would have not just 1, right, but now 2 of these. And without doing much besides configuring, the service itself in the Polumi component, you would get all of this structure, all of this opinionation, all of the purposeful design of how we manage our infrastructure, right? If you were to say, hey, how do I access that service? You know exactly how to, right? We use the internal DNS. Out of curiosity, why are you using local? So Sir Maxim, that's just the internal DNS for Kubernetes, right? It's not it's not local in the sense of local host. Or to my computer, it's local just in the sense of local to the Kubernetes cluster. So I'm just using the internal domain inside of the cluster itself, right? That's all it is. Don't forget an ingress. We don't use ingresses. We don't actually use ingress controllers. So we do, but not for any of this stuff. And you might be like, wait, what? How does that work? We use tunnels. We use Cloudflare Tunnels essentially for all of the external stuff. Not conflict. No. Yeah, no. Yeah, this is all like if you were Sir Maxim, like if I was like, look at this. So service local cluster, like look at this. If I were to go here and just do like ping whatever dot, what is it? Service dot cluster local. Like it's not, there's no resolution here. And I can't even do this domain, right? Like there's no, so yeah, so this is all just in the Kubernetes cluster. These are services that are running in the namespaces in the cluster that can talk to each other. Yo, Editor Nick, thank you, man, for the 3 months. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Welcome. Okay, cool. So now you should understand our opinionation around our services, right? So this service namespace should have, if we go back to our code here, right? This service namespace should have those things in it. And it does, right? We have the actual namespace itself, right? The config map, which if we go here, this is the namespace. This is the namespace we're putting it in, right? And then we have the secret, same thing. We're putting it in the namespace of our choice. And same thing with secret JWT. Now, one thing to note about this is you might notice here, we're using like very simple, like, we're using the raw components themselves, right? Whereas like here, I'm actually saying like new JWT as like a function. And then when we go there, you see that I have a very well-defined function that creates the component for me or the resource for me. See how this is the resource in this function versus it existing here. So see how at the top level, right, we've got just like generic resources, but then this one we said, you know what, we're actually going to create a function to do so. 2 reasons for that. One, I should really be doing this everywhere. If I really wanted to standardize my code, it would be very good for me to have a standard way of like creating secrets that takes in, just one parameter or a few parameters and can generate all of this stuff for me. It's just more like shared logic that I can work on and grow, right? It's not massively important, but it's just what I can do, right? Like if I wanted to. I'm doing it here because these have particular things that they have to do, right? These have to get from JWT, or these have to get from Pulumi config values to be able to inject the configuration properly, which means that this is using Pulumi even further by storing secret values with Pulumi and then retrieving those secret values. Whereas here, we're just saying, we don't know what those secret values are, just pass down to them. But ideally, it would be better for us to, if we felt like we have more places we're creating secrets and stuff, to have a more reusable like function to do this with. So that's just something to note, which is at some point, I'm sure these will become, their own functions that'll just create a secret and it'll just be a few parameters and stuff. But for now, you can see here as well, we have options secret JWT. So we're saying, hey, if we have the secret enabled, then go ahead and inject it into the container or into the deployment. And so this one's completely optional. And then after that, you can see secret image pull, where we say this is required as well. Go ahead and create the image pull secret. So the things that we're missing are the deployment and the service, which is what we want to add next. So let's do this. Let's go over here. Let's go to Kubernetes. That's the on-prem one. I want to go to the service one, sorry. And then API. Okay. So I'm using the original automation as like a bit of a guide here. So after we do this where we combine the two together, the config map and the secret, into the environment variables. So now the config map is being used. Now the secret is being used as it should be, which is great, right? Our image is still there. And then the next thing we've got is the deployment. Now I'm going to copy the whole deployment here, and I'm going to paste it in. And the reason for that is because I don't need all of this, but there's a lot here, and we can just kind of save ourselves some time by doing that. We also need the app Kubernetes stuff. So, oh, it's apps. Oops, apps. There we go. And then we will go back here. Okay, cool. So, we have our deployment now. Labels app. Okay, still following the same naming convention, so that's good. Metadata. Okay, so here's something we want to change, which is this would be statically coded if we did that. So let's set that to that. Namespace is good. Replicas. Oh, that's something I didn't even think about. We should put replicas. Yeah. If I want to be able to update it, we should put replicas. So yeah, replicas is something we want to be able to provide as an option. Remember, this won't be our final configuration. It's just going to be one that works well for, like, you know, that passes down all the values we need. Replicas. Labels is fine. Labels is fine. And scale deployments based on CPU. Yeah, I mean, the benefit, again, of doing what we're doing is, okay, here, chat, awesome example. Whisper just said, hey, but what about scaling deployments based on CPU and stuff like that? Yeah, you could totally do that. You know how you would do that? You would go into the template here, right? And in this service namespace, do you know what we would do? We would add an auto or a horizontal scaler, right? That horizontal scaler would be in the service namespace, and there you go. Now, here's what's even cooler, Whisper. If I first used this once, right, without implementing that, and then later on I came back and implemented that, do you know what I would have to do to update all of my services? Literally, the only thing I would have to do is just redeploy them, right? Because it's in the module. All I'd have to do is update the library and redeploy them. And then they get out of the box now every service, not just the one service I wanted to add it to, but every service out of the box gets horizontal scaling now. So that's the benefit of having this like shared approach and stuff. We need to do something else though, which is we need to include a migrate Boolean. And the reason for this is because some containers or some services have databases. So they have to run migrations in what we like to call an init container. And this init container is started before the normal container is, right? And so you'll see here that the init container runs the args migrate with the exact same environment and everything, same image, with the name API migrate. So it runs its migrations first, and then it does that. So let's handle that really quickly, right? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a value called init containers. Oops. Let init containers like this, and it's just going to be an empty array. Now the reason for that is because down here we provide init containers with an array of containers or container definitions, but by default this is not enabled, right? This is something that we want to be a Boolean that we can turn on and turn off. So what we want to do is we want to cut all of this right here, right, and just inject that value. At this point, I just removed the init container, meaning nothing is going to run right now. However, if I take the logic that I just cut and I say if options.migrate and I put it in an if statement, then I can just easily paste this back here like this, right? And you might say, well, that's not working logic, BG. I'm not done yet. What I can do is init containers dot push. And now I have pushed that new container to the array of init containers that I want to start, so that when I define migrate as true, it will go from having no init containers, right, to having one init container pushed into the array. So that is how we enable migrations with our definition. It is that simple, chat. And now what's cool is any service that has a database and we standardize those migrations, I can now easily just enable the migrate command or the migrate configuration option, and it'll run migrations for me in the deployment. I don't have to worry about anything. All that's done and taken care of. Bam. Does it run it as a Kubernetes job? It runs it as a pod. Like the init containers, if you don't know, Kubernetes init containers, they're actual containers that run before your normal container does, right? And they have to run successfully. So they are designed really for exactly what I'm using them for, migrations. And we can say container. I'm just gonna like refactor this a little bit. Cut. That. And then this, we'll just push the container. That looks a little bit nicer. Or if we wanted to, we could even just call this, see. Or, actually, this makes more sense. Migrate. Now, a couple things about this. We don't want to change the args. We have a standardization around the args that we pass to init containers for migrations. It will always be this migrate command. I'll be real with you, be 100% with you. A lot of this stuff is stuff that I have been able to learn and grow and build while working at Hippo. You know, our team is doing some pretty cool stuff. I've never seen infrastructure built this way before. In a lot of ways. Some ways, yes, but in a lot of other ways, no. And when you see how like these problems are slowly just solving themselves because of the decisions we make, right? Later on, you might ask yourself, well, like, okay, cool, that's great that we have a you know, an init container and stuff, but like, how do I know what the command is, right? Don't worry about it. It's standardized. It's a literal command called migrate. It will look for this command. All you have to do is give it that command so that it can run it. And at that point, you can run any migration you want. All you have to do is make sure, like, that's the point of all of this, is essentially saying to the person, all you have to do is this, and you get what you want, right? Not to say you don't get what you want, but to say, all you have to do is this, and then you get that. That's empowering a developer, in my opinion, at least. Okay, so we got a couple other things we need to do here. We've got our init containers set up now, right? We know that our init containers are only going to push when we have the migration set. So let's look at the next thing now. So here's our normal containers after init containers. Remember how I said we have those standardized inputs and outputs? Well, just like we have a standardized migrate command, we have a standardized start command, right? So if you were to say, hey, BG, I want to make a super crazy Node application, and then by next to that, I also want to make a super crazy Go application. How can I run them both with your super crazy service deployment? Just create a script that's able to use the start command and then run your service in that, right? Docker entry point, boom, problem solved, right? That's it. That's it. Right? Now I have standardized our deployments so that they are language agnostic. Pretty cool, huh? So again, this is no longer a node service now, but this is a language agnostic service that if I wanted to, all I would need to do is create an entry point with a migrate command and a start command, and I can add whatever I want to that. Like it can be, again, it could be a node service that like runs migrations in Go. Like it does not matter. Like it does not matter. Okay, so we got a couple of other things we need to do here. Polar's Bear, thank you for the follow. We talked about making our JWT private keys also optional, but we haven't actually managed the logic that injects those keys, right? And that's this right here. Just like we did the injection of the init containers to an array, we're going to do the exact same thing with the env. Now, what's funny, chat, is you might notice, like, man, this schema is really easy to work with. Like, everything's in arrays to where you could just, like, you know, push it to an array if it's not there. Like, man, that's really nice. That's because these are, like, purposeful decisions that have been made so that you don't run into these problems later. And that's something to really note here is, like, you know, being able to just have all these things in arrays so that they're very easy to just, like, add instead of saying, like, you know, add, remove, or delete. And you know what I mean? Like, just having them in these really highly composable, like, nature or whatever, it makes it really easy to do these kinds of automation and lean into it. So yeah, just something else to, you know, to note is, like, I'm not, you'll notice that I'm not having to do a bunch of hacking to get this to work, right? I'm just cutting some code and it's going from being a standard or, you know, a static definition somewhere to a dynamic definition, you know, somewhere else. That's really it. So here's what's cool is remember how we have that options JWT thing up here? Well, we already generate the JWT right here, but we don't add it to the deployment yet. So what we can do is we can say, okay, cool. Well, we know that we need to push these secrets to our secrets array, right? So let's go here. Let's go back to this really quickly. Where is it? So it's env, right? Our env array, sorry. So we're going to replace this so that this is broken, right? So this is going to be broken for a second. Yep, see how it's broken? No value exists. That's fine. Because what we're going to do is here, we're going to say let env, right? Just like we do with the init containers. And then we're going to push these values into that. So we're going to say this first object is our private key, right? And then instead of them being in an array, we're going to split this up. We're going to say the next one is our public key, right? Just like that. And so now we have two objects instead of one array full of objects, but we have a portable array right here that we can inject secrets into or environment variables into, essentially. And so we're going to do that now by saying, okay, env.push the private key, env.push the public key. And now, not only do we, if the JWT is defined or is set to true, generate our secret resource, but then we also inject it into the environment via the deployment configuration, right? Just like that. And there we go. Now we have our JWT secret fully taken care of when we need it to. All right. So let's see what else we got here. So we got image, right? And here's the thing. Here's what's fun is we're using env and we're using env from, right? So what we're doing is we're saying, all right, well, we have two main resources for configuring services, and that's going to be our config map and our secret. If you have any type of configuration value, you put it in the config map. If you have any type of secret value, you put it in the secret. And then anything else outside of these two are individually managed. And that's why we're individually pushing each one of these key values, essentially, versus just adding them here, right? They can be their own secrets and managed separately. what we want to do is we want to say the standard interface for developers is a config map and a secret. That's all you should really have to worry about. Anything else, it takes care of it for you via configuration. So image, options, image, that one's pretty straightforward. Name, right? We want this name to be this. And then the last part of this is standardization, right? So because we're using service namespaces, right? We don't have to worry about like port. Well, I mean, honestly, because we're using Kubernetes as well, but we don't have to worry about things like port collisions or anything like that. So we can say, you know what? Every service listens on 9001. That is the port that we decided to listen to. And do you know why we listen on 9001, chat? Because it's over 9000. I'm sorry. I've been waiting so long to tell people how to do that. I've been waiting so long to tell people that that's why I chose port 9001. But yeah, that's actually why it's 9001, is because it's over 9000. I'm like equally embarrassed, and you know, I love it. So yeah. But yeah, no, that's the funny. I'm not embarrassed at all. I love it. No, I'm definitely not embarrassed at all, by the way. But yeah, that was the funny thing is I was like, man, like, what port can I use? Because like at Hippo we use 3001, because we don't want to use 3000, and so I was like, I wonder like what would be a fun port, and then I happened to think about 9000, and then I was like, oh my god, I could use 9001. But yeah, so that's the thing, right? Is we are now saying that, you know what? Every service is going to listen on 9001. That's what our health checks are going to look for. And every service is going to have a standardized /health check endpoint over HTTP that we can then check, right? These are all essentially these are all HTTP services. And that's something to note here is that is our first like real level opinionation here, which is this isn't just kind of a service, it's really an HTTP service, right? Because the health check's underneath. Now, we don't have to keep that right now. We can just keep it as service, because remember, what we could also do is we could also say protocol, right? Make that a string value, and then say in our configuration, okay, cool, well, the protocol for this service is actually, you know, RPC, right? And then it would know how to register the health check handlers in a standardized way for RPC, right? We use HTTP across the board for now, so it's really not that big of a deal. But that is something to note is like with all of this customization and, you know, all these options and stuff, you can solve those problems multiple ways. You can solve it by, you know, making a whole new thing, or doing something simpler like making it just a configurable option. Project. The project is called Quirk. I would recommend doing today in chat, and then I didn't put Quirk in there. There you go. That's the project, Quirk. Thank you guys for the follows and everything. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. So there we go. So now we have a pretty solid standardized deployment here. So let's see what else we got here. Oh, we've got our service, right? We need to add our service. So let's do that too. So remember, we said that the service was also optional. So let's do this. We're going to say if options.service, right? So if we want a service so that other services can talk to it. Now, one thing I want to note as well, in Kubernetes world, service is not the same as what I keep saying by the word service. Service in my world is like the full-on encapsulated product, or, you know, backend or whatever. That is the service, right? In the Kubernetes world, a service is really just a exposed endpoint that points to a deployment, right? That's how Kubernetes works. And that's why you'll see in our service namespace, we have a service resource that points optionally to a deployment for the service. Then the word service is massively overused in infrastructure. So I'm trying to avoid using it as much as possible, but here they do collide, unfortunately. And there's really no way of getting around it unless I use a different word besides service. So I'd rather just explain it. Okay, cool. So if we define that we want one, we should now get here it is, our service definition, right? We will go down here and we will make sure that it's a name, just the name itself, right? And here's what's cool, right? Here's what's cool as well, right? Because we have standardized the health checks that we listen on, the labels that we use, and everything else, we don't have to really do anything else. That's it, right? The ports are the same, 9000, TCP, HTTP is the name, the labels are the same. It's every label on every part of the application already, right? Look, match labels, right? So yeah, I mean, like, this becomes very, very simple. And what's cool too is we can even say like, okay, well, this also depends on, we'll say this also depends on the chart, right? Or oops, not the chart, sorry, the deployment. And so now it's going to say, well, I don't know what the deployment is. So we will go here and we'll say const deployment. And now what we can do is we can set it up so that it will actually wait until the deployment is done. The service will wait until the deployment is done before it can create itself. Okay, so we got the service. And the last thing we've got here is the record. Now, again, remember, this is an optional thing that basically says, if we want this to be exposed to the internet, we need an A record for it, right? We need to go out to Cloudflare and create some information. And so that's what this is here. Now, what's interesting is we technically don't just pass the name of the application or anything like that. We actually pass the tunnel that Cloudflare generates. And then we also pass the zone that exists in Cloudflare, like the zone ID, if that makes sense. So these are probably just going to want to be strings, I think, at the end of the day. But we do have, so I think we actually want to create a function out of this, chat. I think we do. Yeah, I think just like the ones up here, right? The new image pull, right? Where we've got like a nice function that like gets the configuration secrets and then generates it into like a really nice Pulumi output, right? And then that's used in the secret. Like, I think this makes sense for us to do here. These concepts look familiar to me. I know, right? Yeah, dude. Well, what's really cool too is like a lot of the concepts I've been reusing essentially. I'm doing them in Polumi. So it's been interesting to see that translation. Who designed these? Dude, I don't know, man. I have no idea. Come on. You should give them a job. Dude, you missed it about like 20 minutes ago or so. I was literally talking about how just, how we do things at Hippo is just so different, on so many levels. What's up though, Avi? How you doing, buddy? Shout out to Avi. You could tell me what is the advantage of Kubernetes with Polumi? I don't get it. Can I tell you it? It's not different. Okay. I'm sure it's going to be something like better because it is. It's correct. Yeah, I was about to say it's correct. Yeah. You can manage Kubernetes in a ton of different ways, right? You can use Terraform if you want. I don't know why you would. You could. You could use Polumi. You could use Helm. You could use just a bunch of different options. The thing about Kubernetes, or one of the things about Kubernetes, is that it essentially is a state management system, right? So what you do in Kubernetes is you don't deploy something in Kubernetes and then have it wait and then it's like done. That's not actually what happens under the hood. What you do is you go out to Kubernetes and you say, hey, this is what I want you to look like now, right? Like we had 2 deployments before, now I want 3, right? And then Kubernetes does something which is called a reconciliation loop that sees that you change that and then goes, oh, okay, we need containers. And so it spins it up, right? No, it's not Ansible for Kubernetes. Well, kind of, but you can use Ansible to manage Kubernetes. I don't recommend it. And here's why. It's all about state at the end of the day, right? One of the powerful tools about Terraform, for example, is it generates a state of your infrastructure that then you can change and have differences and stuff like that with, right? However, with Ansible, you don't have that, right? With Ansible, you really don't have any state whatsoever, right? Ansible, it's more like a set of steps that you want it to always do. Exactly, yeah. It's great if you have idempotent actions, right? So I have this list of actions I always want to do, and when I run them, if I run them twice, then it should not have to change anything the second time around, right? That's really how Ansible works. And like a lot of people will write playbooks that always change things, but that's not how Ansible is actually supposed to work. How Ansible is supposed to work is you're supposed to run it once or even maybe twice, but the idea is you're supposed to run it only until you've made all the changes you needed to. And then after you've made that, it should run over and over and over and not have to make any other future changes until you introduce new changes, right? But that's not state management. That's just us saying, I want this thing at a certain state, and here's all the actions you have to do to get there. Terraform generates an actual file of like, they created this, and this is the reference that it's pointed to. These are the attributes for it, and all of these other things. And when it does that, it allows you to, when you have that state knowledge and that ability of managing state, you have the ability of like being able to do really cool things, like completely change configurations and having diffs between the two of them, and honestly, just a lot of other cool things. And so state management is something that's super helpful and beneficial, or can be, because Kubernetes uses this. It's super helpful if you utilize a tool that also uses this, right? And so Ansible is great, but unfortunately, it just doesn't really have any kind of concept of, I've already done this. And in a Kubernetes world, you can tell Kubernetes to do the same thing over and over, and it only really do it. Well, sometimes it'll only do it once, but sometimes it'll also do it over and over and over and over and over for you. It's all about the deployment and how it works, right? So in a circumstance where I want Ansible to just confirm maybe like we've done something but not to change it, that's where Ansible doesn't mean it can't do it. It just becomes more difficult. When we talk about like Pulumi or Terraform, we're just talking about the pure preference of how you like to write your automation, really. Polumi leverages the Terraform providers under the hood. So there's really not much of a difference in the sense of like support of configuration and stuff like that, because most of what you can do in Terraform, you can do in Polumi. But in Terraform, or at least HCL Terraform, normal Terraform, it's all in HCL. Right? It's in a standardized language that they created that's like kind of based off of Go, but like not really. And it becomes very challenging to scale a custom built language that is it's not, it's not the same as like a full-fledged, like, typed even language. What Polumi does is Polumi allows you to utilize your own language, and so does Terraform CDK. CDK as well can let you do that too. But the main idea is that I'm not writing my automation in HCL anymore. I'm writing them in, a language of my choosing. So when you ask the question, why do I manage Polumi with or why do I manage Kubernetes with Pulumi? It's a two-part answer. The first part is I want that state management, right? I want to be able to manage state somehow with my own automation, which is what Pulumi gives me. And then Pulumi and Terraform gives me. But then the second thing that Polumi really gives me is the ability to write it in the code that I want, write tests the way that I want to, do all those kind of things as well. So it is a two-parter, right? Did I say anywhere where one is necessarily like better or worse per se? Not entirely, right? I said that there were advantages and disadvantages to particular parts of it, but at the end of the day, it's up to you what you want to choose. But you can do, you could use Ansible if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could. What's up, Dev? Dev Maddie, how's it going? Maybe check out I don't know what that is. So Ansible for, but yeah, sorry, I said that. This is exactly like AWS CDK. I love this. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the same way in the sense that you're writing your automation with code. It's fun. I like Polumi. I like writing in Polumi. But like, here's the thing too, and like, it's something to note. Hippo, like our whole company was built off Terraform, man. Like, it's not to say like one can't take you super far than another, right? It's just how you do it, It really is. You could just use the shell script if you want to. Yep, you could. You might hate your life if you do that, but sure, you could definitely just use a shell script if you want to for everything. You would definitely not enjoy it though. I could not tell if you were trolling or not. So I apologize for laughing, but yeah, shell scripting in the year of 2022. I don't know. I don't, at least for this level of stuff. I don't know. That'd be tough. Cloud. So what do we need? So those are secrets. What are we generating out of this? Oh, I guess we really are generating a secret, aren't we? Are we? What are we generating here? No, this is a service. Yeah, no, wait, is this a service? Okay, cool. Once I read that, I was like, okay, cool. Okay, no, so this is a record. This is an A record. Interesting. What time is it, by the way? 12? Okay. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything on Slack. Oh, interesting. Avi, I just read your message too. I've never, I do it with Pulumi. I actually thought that was by IT as well. Interesting. Oh. Policies, admin, groups, claim. Bound claims, groups, DevOps. Wouldn't we just have to, hold on. Sorry, I had to respond to something in work Slack. I think so. Oh no, you're fine. I was just looking at what you said. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't know. That's just my guess. I don't want to break it, obviously, so I totally get your point. But not need a database, etc. Wait, sorry, let me catch up with chat. My bad. How would you manage Kubernetes, via Pulumi or another way? Yeah, I manage everything with Pulumi. Yeah. Well, everything Kubernetes related. I use all cloud stuff with Terraform. But not need a database, etc. Oh wait, so something I'm interested in trying is using Route 53 plus Core DNS. Core DNS has a plugin for Route 53, so it will read records from it. I think it's kind of an interesting way to put your API on your on-prem. I think it's kind of interesting way to put an API on your on-prem DNS. What? I don't know if I follow what you mean by that. By putting in Core DNS has a plugin for Route 53. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying, I mean, to be honest, you could do that, but like, yeah, I was about to say, but why? Yeah, I was about to be like, but Avi, you have brainwashed me that much that I literally said. Yeah, I don't think you need, I mean, you know, hey, listen, we manage all of our public, like all of, well, I mean, you don't need to do that. Like, it's not that big a deal if you have the addresses. Like you can just use the cloud provider naturally. I mean, okay, sure, somebody might be able to do a dig lookup on a thing and like see an IP address of yours, maybe, but like it's an internal IP to your network. Have you got a good firewall? Cool. That's all you need. You know, like I actually just have all of my DNS in the cloud on Azure, and it has like a ton of private IPs and stuff, you know. It doesn't, like, I don't know. It for now, it's totally fine. I can keep moving, building what I'm doing. If you really need something on-prem, you should. Oh yeah, no, there's totally a bunch of stuff out there like that. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is like, it depends on what you're it depends on what you're doing. For me, like, I'm fine. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal. Now, if I'm being like heavily audited and stuff like that, it's a much different story. But if you're just doing it for funsies, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Can Pulumi be used as cloud things as well? Yes. And you can do you do infra like AWS or Cloudflare with Pulumi. Yes. Yeah. I only use, listen. So okay, let me show you the automation that we have for Polumi. So the Polumi stuff that we have is Quirk Polumi Kubernetes, which manages all of Quirk's deployments. All of Quirk's cluster deployments. So like, for example, if I was to go out and create a Azure Kubernetes cluster, this would manage all of the like stuff with that, right? And then we have Quirk Polumi Service, which manages the actual deployments of the services themselves, right? And then we've got on-prem Polumi Virtual, and this on-prem manages virtual machines and stuff, but this is all with vSphere. So outside of like vSphere and Kubernetes, I don't use Polumi for anything else, but you absolutely can. You like, look, this is the Polumi AWS documentation. Sorry to blind you, but that's it right there. So yeah, you totally can. I just don't. or I haven't yet. Pulumi in a lot of ways is similar to what's it called? Terraform, right? Again, it's just you get to use a language of your own, really. Yes, it does look bad in audit, yes, but I'm talking about, again, I'm not talking about places where I'm even going to get audited. Yeah. So here's the thing. Oh, Thug Muffin. And to go back to the, like, you know, the thing here, or what I'm trying to say, I guess. At that point, I would just run an internal DNS service. I don't know if I would try to, like, hook in my cloud DNS service to do it. You know what I mean? So, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's a part of it as well for me. But hey, there's tons of ways of doing things. So you don't have to take my opinion as fact. And again, I totally understand the desire of wanting DNS on site. That I get. Like, that I totally get. That I totally get. You know what I mean? That I totally get. Yeah, and local lookups would be client on-prem DNS, cloud DNS, public DNS. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But you could. I mean, you could. And there might be a reason why you want to do that. You know what I mean? It just depends. Okay, so we need a record. So service, new file. We're just going to call this a record right now because I don't really know what else to call this. And then we're going to say function, new record. And it's only going to be an A record for now, which is fine. We need to grab all of this stuff. What time is it, by the way? Ooh. Okay. Yeah, but at that point, you could also just make an authoritative proxy server where you have, like, your main DNS managed there, and then it just upstream. You know what I mean? Like why not make it easier instead of, like, coupling all? I don't know. Sorry, it's just my own opinion. It's just my own opinion. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's a neat idea. Don't get me wrong. It's a neat idea. I do think it is a neat idea. I just don't know if I would practically do it. That's all. Tunnel ID apply. So we. So we're going to have to create a tunnel, but the problem is that services share tunnels. We don't create tunnels per services. I mean, we could. Could we? Ugh. No, we couldn't, because then I'd have to create Cloudflare. Okay, we could. It just becomes a lot more challenging now. So here's the fun part, chat. Let's do this. So let's go back here really quickly. And we'll say we service. All right, so we finished creating our service reusable component in the sense that we created the namespace, we created the config map, right? We created the service, we created the secret JWT, or the secret JWT, secret image pull, secret image pull. We added migration support and service support. And then we started working on a record support. So let's go back here. We had to stop when working on the A record support with Cloudflare because of how we do routing in Cloudflare. So every service that is publicly, oh my gosh, I spelled publicly way wrong. Is that publicly? Publicly? Wait. Yeah, that's publicly. Every service that is publicly exposed has two resources. Has two, we'll say, Cloudflare resources. The first is a Cloudflare tunnel, right? And this is shared with all services, right? This tunnel is the actual Cloudflare definition that we use to like authenticate with and all these other things. And then it also has a Cloudflare A record. And this is pointed to the tunnel by each service. Now, the idea here, chat, is that right now, if we go back to our code, you'll see that in this... Oops. Whoa, geez. I did not mean to do that. We'll see that in this existing automation for the API service, right, where everything exists right now that we're moving from, that the A record is here in the API definition, right? But do you know what's not in here? The tunnel. And the reason for that is because when I first did this, the tunnel was a shared thing. Because each tunnel needs its own cloud, or it needs its own tunnel secret, and so forth. So what this means is that I was creating tunnels manually by default because of this tunnel secret. But what we want to do is we really want to create tunnels dynamically in with the specific. So basically what we want to do is we want to stop sharing tunnels, right? And so we will have to say that because of this, we will need to refactor how tunnels are deployed so each service has its own tunnel versus sharing one for the environment, right? So the idea here is that right now we were creating an environment Cloudflare tunnel and then a singular A record for each service. But because I'm trying to like standardize my services, what I'm really saying is, no, I don't want just an A record, but I want the complete routing capability, right? I need the tunnel set up. And not only that, but there's another thing, which is we need to include a Cloudflare daemon deployment. And this is also shared with all services. And this daemon is what uses the Cloudflare tunnel ID to access the Cloudflare network and process traffic to Kubernetes, right? So this Cloudflare daemon deployment is what is referenced by the Cloudflare tunnel through A record. So what happens is when you guys go to, portal.quirk.com or whatever, you first see the A record, right? And then that A record points to a tunnel, and that tunnel is an ID that knows how to route that traffic to an actual service in the cluster as well, right? And if we go back to the automation over here one more time, and we go to the top level, you'll see that here is where we're creating that tunnel, right? Remember, these are shared, whereas everything in here, in the actual API service itself right here, is isolated. So what we need to do is we need to move this into this, right? And everything with it. So like all of this needs to get moved into here, right? And then we need to create the tunnel with the A record. Are the tunnels for prod or just dev? They're for everything, right? These are for anything that needs publicly accessible traffic. This is how we create routes into the Kubernetes cluster. So the idea, oh Thug Muffin, is in the future, if I had another service that I needed to publicly expose, then all I would need to do is just enable Cloudflare routing, right, in the component, and then it would, set up all of this automation for me. And again, as to, Kenzo Dev's, point, this is all what we're doing at Hippo. This is entirely the type of automation that we're doing at Hippo. And this is what has helped us, like, not the tunnel part, though the tunnel part's a cool part, I think. But the way that, again, as we add more features, we're not going to each one of these services and saying, okay, you get a tunnel now, okay, you get a tunnel now, okay, you get a tunnel now, right? What we're doing is we're saying everything has a standardized way of doing things, right? And this is how we define them. Now, one thing to note about how we do things at Hippo, and this is actually, I don't want to bother him because I know he's super busy, but this is one of the things that I've been excited about bringing to Hippo with regards to Polumi, because right now our service directory uses JSON to define the schemas and the shapes, right? It's very simple, very easy. With Polumi, however, the schemas and the shapes are in type safety, right? They're in the language. They're not in the JSON. And that's really interesting because now what we're saying is, hey, devs, you're no longer managing, or, potentially, it still very much could just be in JSON because it's super easy to manage. But it's an interesting thought that, we have the same inheritance in logic now like we would in a JSON document. And those JSON documents could still be extended to where they use the schemas, and then we can just use JSON documents to configure everything, right? And then files and stuff. So what's cool is like, it fits very well into our already existing patterns where I work at Hippo, which is cool. So I'm excited to see like how that were to work. Probably not. We probably wouldn't change too much. I wouldn't see too much of it because we, configuring services with JSON is just super nice. But yeah, it is neat to be able to say like, okay, I want a new service, cool, new service, and then being able to do it with code. Yeah, it's fun stuff. All right, so chat, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take a quick break because I have been going for like 2.5 hours now, and I just haven't taken a break yet. So I'm going to do that. I just want to say, hey, appreciate you guys for hanging out today. We're not done. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out that little blurb right there. We're a variety channel hosted by myself, BG, as well as my good friend Atoda. I messed that up last night, and I said my good friend BG. But yeah, if you ever see anybody programming, that's basically me. And if you ever see anybody gaming, that's Atoda. We are a variety stream. We host multiple shows on this channel. And so yeah, you can either check out me programming, check out Atoda gaming, or us doing content. Ooh, that sounded weird. Us streaming together and playing games and stuff like that. Outside of that, if you're also wanting to be a part of our community, there's a couple things I want to show you. The first one and foremost is probably the most important one, which is our Discord. Our Discord is an awesome place filled with wonderful people. If you ever have questions, you want to be a part of our conversations, I actually just completely refactored our Discord recently to where we have all new categories here, and channels are much more organized to where you guys can have better conversations and at least be able to, make it easier to have those conversations. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. The second thing I want to show you, and this works with the Discord, which is our brand new wiki. So everything that we do on stream, outside of work-related stuff, I just want to be clear on that. I am not going to be posting work-related content on the wiki because I don't feel like dealing with security stuff. And it's it's not my, like, I work for Hippo. It's not my property. So unfortunately, none of the content that is Hippo related will be on this. But like things that I work on around topics or ideas on them will be in here, or other things that I'm working on with, Quirk, all the stuff we're doing today. The main point of the wiki is everything that we do on stream and off stream. The technical designs that we build to try and, solve the problems that we do, or, being able to go back through the stream VODs and look at all of the agenda and stuff like that. That's all what this wiki is for. And on top of this is also a place for you guys to be able to come in and contribute as well. So you can join the wiki too. It's powered by GitHub signup or GitHub login. So all you have to do is log in with your GitHub, and you too can come in and, be a part of the conversation. If you're working on something, like for example, I have a how to build a home lab document here that I'm slowly trying to add to. This is something that I'm going to grow and evolve. I don't know why. There it goes. This is something I'm going to grow and evolve, right? But I've just first put my my thoughts just down on paper, right? So that I can go back to this and manage this later. Or, again, if for example, there's a circumstance where, I want to look at a past stream, I can just go to that past stream VOD and take a look at it. So again, if you ever want to know anything that's going on with the community, or if you're just curious, you want to check it out while I'm on my break, you're more than welcome to just check out the wiki like that. And yeah, take a look around. It's also hosted in our garage. It's hosted in our data center. So that's pretty cool too. Outside of that, the last thing I want to show you really quickly before I take my break is our YouTube channel. So we have 2 YouTube channels. We have our primary one. That's really focused on all of the core tech content that we don't do on stream. If you guys saw a while ago, we did a really cool partnership with Azure where we did an Azure migration. You can see all of that on our YouTube. We also have some other stuff that's going to be coming up soon that I'm going to be uploading to the YouTube with regards to my dot files, how we do our infrastructure, a bunch of other things. So be sure to check that out. And then the other thing that we just started doing as well in our second YouTube is our archives YouTube. And this YouTube is really where all the VODs go. We have to wait. 24 hours to upload our VODs. But essentially, if you ever want to be able to watch a full VOD, just wait a day and it'll be on the YouTubes. If not, you can always check the Twitch streams. I post these right after every stream. So you guys are able to see these links and be able to look at the VODs and stuff right away. But then 24 hours later, you see how this is a Twitch embed? This is a YouTube embed. You gave him something to copy. You gave him something to copy, Atoda. What's up, Joy-Con? Thank you for the 12 months, bro. The tier 3 12 months. He was looking for something to copy, and you gave him something to copy, dude. Joy-Con, thank you for the tier 3, dude. That's so nice of you. Thank you so much for the year of support of tier 3, my dude. Thank you. But okay, I am gonna take my break. I have been working towards taking a break. So I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to get up and take a quick 5-er, stretch my legs, all that good stuff. You can look at all these cool gadgets and whatever. And here. You guys can look at my Kubernetes on the left and my float term here. Oh, let's do this. There you go, chat. Are we riced? Are we thoroughly Linux riced right now? All right, guys, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to take my... Oh, Anthony. Dang it, Anthony. Hi, Anthony. Dog, did you do that purposely, bro? Did you? I swear to God, I'm actually going to hit you at TwitchCon if you did that purposely. Dude, I just went through the whole spiel. I was just about to take my break. This is why you can't be friends with Twitch streamers, chat. They really don't care about you. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Hi, Anthony. You did the you were going on a break, but I didn't know beyond that. Yeah, no, that was definitely BG's about to take a break. Welcome, everybody from Anthony Writes Code stream. Hello, hi, hello. If you don't know me, I'm BG, one of the co-hosts of the Author 4 stream. Thank you for being here. Anthony, I hope you had a good stream, and you can go yourself for rating me right as I'm about to. So there's a streamer code, chat, and it's not really a code because nobody follows it, but it's kind of like a streamer thing to be like, hey, if I'm about to like end my stream or something like that, we try and like, you know, help each other, let each other know. You know what I mean? Normally with a raid, you get stuck and you have to sit here. But yeah. What? Okay, Anthony. Enjoy it, buddy. But welcome everybody from Anthony Writes Code stream. Thank you guys so much for being here. Shout out to Anthony Writes Code. Thank you for, no, seriously, we appreciate you guys so much for being here. Thank you. I am BG. As I said before, I'm one of the co-hosts of the Alta 4 stream. If you do not know who we are, there's a little bit of blurb about it in the chat there. Basically, we're a variety stream. I don't play video games, well, sometimes, but I program as well as work in DevOps and things like that. And Atoda plays video games, does maker content, other things like that. And then we also co-stream together where we'll do IRL content, we'll play games together, stuff like that. So it is a co-hosted stream. So if you're ever curious about any of the stuff we got going on, you're more than welcome to be a part of the community. Thank you for the follows, guys. Today, I am working on creating Pulumi reusable components. And I say resources there, but I really mean components. I work in DevOps by trade. I am a DevOps engineer. And so a lot of my job is managing infrastructure, managing people and infrastructure, and helping developers do what they need to do, you know, every day. And the TLDR on that is today, I am building automation for our personal Kubernetes cluster. We have our own data center, and I like to call it our data center. Actually, that's what vSphere calls it. So whatever. But we have our own servers essentially in our garage. We have our own little Anton, if you ever watch Silicon Valley. And we have our own cloud there. And so we do have deployments of virtual machines and Kubernetes clusters, game servers, other clusters like that we basically run entirely in that setup. You can do ! setup in chat and actually take a little bit of a look at that. It's the one all the way down at the Black Glasses is infrastructure overview. Yeah, you can take a look at that. Now that video is kind of old, so there are some updates. We have a few more servers since then, and some other changes and stuff, but that is the basic of what we have. Since then, actually, I should do a new update video of that because we run like everything in vSphere now, and we use Kubernetes. Then we use like Docker Swarm and KVM and stuff like that. Yeah, that clip needs to be seriously updated. But the hardware is still pretty much the same. And so today I'm working on writing automation for Polumi so that we can do all of these deployments and things like that. And we here build something called Quirk. We build a lot of different things on this stream, but one of the things that we've been building for almost 2 years now, similar to Anthony, is we build our own platform called Quirk. Quirk is basically a Streamlabs competitor. It is a platform built for streamers, and it's designed by us. Everything that we have needed to, you know, use on our stream, whether it be things like light changes, notifications, moderation, bots, all of these kind of things, they're all built into this platform that we've been building and testing and growing. And so we are working on the automation for that. So like, for example, Quirk app, that bot is our bot. That's what's powered by, you know, our infrastructure and stuff like that. And so we're working on the automation for that deployment to Kubernetes and all the other environments that we use and stuff like that. I don't mean to be this guy. I really don't, because I appreciate you guys being here so much. But if I stay here for a second longer, I'm going to pee myself. So I'm going to go and take my break now, Anthony. As much as your interruption honestly worked. If you guys can give me a few minutes, I am going to take a break. And then when I come back, we're going to jump back into this. However, I do have something else that I can give you guys, which is pretty cool, which is we have a new site for our community called the Alta 4 Wiki. We do a bunch of different stuff here. Again, I work in DevOps, so I'm constantly solving all different types of problems. I wanted to find a place to where I could share that information with you in a way that you could do it at, you know, you could learn that information at your own time. I don't have the time to create 9,000 videos on YouTube. I wish I did. Writing documentation is really easy for me because that's what I do in my day job. And so what the wiki is it is a an amalgamation of all of the stuff we do here on the stream. If you're ever curious about any past streams, you can go to the wiki and click on Twitch streams, and then you can go through the list of all of these. And these have VODs in them as well, right? So feel free to check all of that stuff out. Hold on, one other thing. Anthony, I wanted to show this to you because I've been showing this to all of our streamer friends. But I wrote an article on how we do our live streaming setup. I don't know if it's something you'd be interested in, Anthony, but it's essentially all of our secrets. So I showed it to a couple of other friends the other day, and they were just really hyped on it. So if you guys are interested in any of that information, hey, guess what? I'm not just leaving you with nothing. You got something cool to look at. So I'm gonna go to the bathroom now. And yeah, Anthony, check out. Hey, I don't. Maybe it's maybe there's something there that you see that you might go, oh, that's cool. I like how they did that. I don't know. It's just we've been doing that. We've been building our stream for so long that I was like, you know what? We need to share how we do this stuff. So that's the goal there. All right, guys, give me a second. I will be right back. I'm going to take my break. I'm getting CC'd on a Slack message now. Okay, I'm going to take my break, guys. I'll be right back. I will see you in a few. I'm going to run an ad as well. Yeah, life of a DevOps engineer, dude. Seriously. All wired too. Can't trust the air. See? I like it. I like that. Cool. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to run an ad. And yeah, I got to respond to my Slack message now. I'll see you guys in a second. Hi, I'm back. All right, cool. So let's get into this. But actually, before I get into this, and I apologize, I need to quickly look at what I was pinged on in work. I don't want to miss that. One second. Okay, so we're gonna quickly review some work that was done recently. Oh, that was not what I meant. Okay. Okay. What's up? Thank you for the follow. Okay. Okay, hold on one second. Oh, I spelled Nginx wrong. Nope. Where are you? It's like Windows something. Window. Here it is, window.app. Okay, cool. So as long as that change is made and okay, sorry, chat. I had to help one of my coworkers with something. They had an issue. Okay, cool. So we will see what happens there. All right, so let's get back to our code, and we're here. All right. So I really do need to grab that service definition, huh? Like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. So, or that tunnel definition. Maybe what we do instead is, instead of calling this a record, now we call this Cloudflare, right? And then with new record, tunnel. Tunnel secret. Okay, I'm just going to grab all of this because I have no idea what any of this is. So let's just grab the whole thing, and then we'll go over here. We'll say function, new tunnel, and we'll just paste in all of this, right? Cool. Okay, so now we have our tunnel resources and our record. So let's do this. Let's put the tunnel down here, and then we'll put the record here because we create the tunnel first. Okay, and then let's take a look and see what we've got. So first off, we need config. This is from Polumi. Config. Config. What? Oh, I bet you it's because of the errors. All right, let's do this. Import from at Pulumi. Oops. Config, right? Yep. Cannot find module. What? Oh. Oh, got it. Okay. I see why that was freaking out. Okay. So we need an Argo tunnel. And that's from Pulumi Cloudflare. Oh, we got to install that. I don't even have that. Okay, so let's go here. Package.json. Pulumi Cloudflare. So we're going to go here. Boom. And now we have the Cloudflare provider. So we're going to yarn. What? Oh. Oh, whoops. Hold on, I need to look at something else here really quickly. Um, Okay, cool. All right. Okay. So did I install? I did. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to our file now. We want to go to Cloudflare and let's fix whatever else we got broken here. So Argo Tunnel, we need to import Argo Tunnel. Argo Tunnel. Awesome. Love it when my imports don't work. Like, just love it. Polumi, Cloudflare. Argo Tunnel, which is what it used to be called. Okay, and so what we want to do is, this isn't so much for the stack anymore, but now its name is, or this is going to be app, right? Yeah, this is app. So it's the app name, which is the full, environment and name or service name. This, okay, so this should be the app as well. App. Yep. And then this can stay the same, account ID. This, however, so I think the approach I'm going to take here with this is, so this is the require secret. This is what Polumi looks for on the file system as the secret value for the tunnel, right? We want to be able to compose these tunnels on the fly, but we need to be able to give it a static secret value. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to kind of take the Terraform cloud approach, which is we'll have dynamically generating. So here, what we'll do is this would actually be a dynamic secret. So it wouldn't be tunnel secret. It would be app tunnel secret, right? And so what'll happen is when Polumi starts, this will turn into dev API tunnel secret, right? And then it'll say, does this exist? And then if it does, it'll work. And then if it doesn't, it'll kick back and be like, hey, we need the dev API tunnel secret defined before you can do anything. So, and that's basically how it works in Terraform. You tell it what variables you want to use, and then if you don't have those variables, the pipelines just fail. So that's fine. So that does mean that there is an additional manual process here, but it's done in the no, it's done in the same place. Yeah, it's done in the same place. Yeah. So the idea would be you use this module, right? And then later on, when you go to run your code, right? When you do like, what is it? Hold on. Pulumi up, right? Or update. What'll happen is it'll be like, oh no. And then you do like Pulumi config set, right? And then you would set that value and then you would just rerun it. Or you would set it and commit it. But no matter what, it's something that a developer should know how, like the developer can completely unblock themselves right here. It's not something that, and it's something you can do completely before you commit as well. So yeah, I don't mind this approach. What time is it right now? Okay. All right, cool. So sorry, guys. I had to respond to somebody in Slack at work. I am still working technically, so still need to give them my attention. Okay, cool. So yeah, so now what's going to happen is we will have the ability of generating these tunnels. Now remember, the idea here is if we go a little bit further, is we have this Kubernetes cluster now, but we also have something else now, which is we have an external group for Cloudflare, right? This, oh, not that. That's not what I wanted. Generic group, this one right here, right? So now what we can do is we can grab and we can move this section over here, right? And we could say right next to our Kubernetes cluster, we now have our Cloudflare resources, right? Now, and this is like all of our Cloudflare resources, at least pertaining to this, you know, this service. And so what we'll do is we'll say, okay, cool. We also, and what we could do, I guess, too, is we could grab this and say that this is in a particular, actually, I don't think tunnels are in anything. Yeah, tunnels aren't in a specific zone. So yeah, so what we'll do is we'll grab this, put this over here, move this over a little bit so you can see it better. And then we'll say here, this isn't a config map, but this is a tunnel. And this tunnel is what the well, we need to add something here, sorry. What we're adding to our service namespace, we need to add a couple things here. So let's add the Cloudflare stuff. So we've got our tunnel, Cloudflare D is what we're going to call it. And this is, we'll call it the daemon, actually, Cloudflare daemon. And then this will go to, this will go to here. So boop to the service, right? So if you were to ask me, how do people outside of my Kubernetes cluster access services internally, right? This is how it's done. Here we go. Sorry, hold on. It's fun to make charts while you're describing them. We have a Cloudflare process running in our service namespace that points to the service itself, the actual Kubernetes service, which is exposed to the Kubernetes cluster, right? And then that daemon is configured via the Cloudflare tunnel definition that we create over here. Sorry, hold on. Slack. Okay, cool. All right, so what we're doing now is we're dropping a Cloudflare daemon into the deploy or into the service definition as well as the tunnel, Argo tunnel. Technically, Argo tunnel is what it's called over here. And then the other thing we need to add is, and this is kind of how the rest of the routing works, is our A record, right? Or A record. And so this is, for example, example.com. And then if you go to example.com, right? Yeah, I know. It's just in the definitions, it's called Argo. So what happens is, again, you go to the A record, right? That A record points to the Argo tunnel or the tunnel in general, whatever. And then that is routed through the Cloudflare network to the Cloudflare daemon. And then the Cloudflare daemon essentially makes the request based off of this to the service, right? So that's the probably the simplest way I could explain it is when you make a request to Cloudflare, they take that request and proxy it through their network tunnel here to the Cloudflare daemon here, which then requests the request here. So you never actually talk to my service directly. You just talk to Cloudflare, and then Cloudflare makes the request on your behalf. And that's how we do internal routing. And so all of this would have been need to be manually made, right? If we were making these services one by one and we weren't doing this automation the way that we are. So we can move this down here now. Be like Cloudflare resources. Oh, wow. Really gonna be like that? Okay. There we go. So there we go. Now we have a more complete diagram where we have some stuff we're creating in Cloudflare now, and that creates the routing for the service. So if you were to ask me, right, how do our services work? What do they look like? What are the resources, right? This is it. This is it right here, right? If a service desires to have, public access, yeah, you're right. It is a CNAME. Yeah, you're right. It's a CNAME. Yep. CNAME record. Yeah. And so the CNAME, right, is the first point of public reference for you guys. And then after that, it goes to the tunnel, which then forwards the traffic to the Cloudflare daemon. And then that daemon makes the request based off of on your behalf to the actual service. The service then actually responds. So this is a two-way stream of traffic. Oopsies. Why can't I click on this? When it's in groups, it's like challenging to click sometimes. There it is. So this is a two-way stream of data. Boop. And so no, that's a one-way stream of data. Yeah, whoops. It's a one-way stream of data. That's a one-way stream, one-way. This is two-way as well, two-way. And then, yeah, this is two-way as well. Well, yeah, the tunnel will go back. Yeah. So yeah, this is two-way as well. Boop. So yeah, so there we go. Thank you. Yeah, I love Lucid. So remember, and here's something else to note is you guys are going to be able to get all of this information in the wiki. So I'll be posting this chart in the wiki so that you guys can review it and all that good stuff too. All I need to do is quickly grab this. Looks like a what? All right. And then, unfortunately, it looks like oh, there we go. Nice. Centered it there. And then we will say Alt F4 LLC Quirk service namespaces. Or Quirk service resources. Cool. There we go. So these are our, Quirk service resources, everything that a service needs in order for Quirk to work. All right, cool. So we've got our tunnel secret, which we do dynamically. I can just call this secret now. Secret. Oh, I see. Secret, tunnel secret apply. So that looks good. Oh, gotcha. Okay, sorry. I was confused. Export function. All right, so I have a bit of... Yo, what up, Orca? Sorry, buddy. I didn't see you there. Yo, Orca. Dude, for starters, Avi was here earlier, which was awesome. He still might be here. But secondly, no, he's not here anymore. Secondly, dude, I am like, it's so fascinating to take what we have done with service directory and from just a programming perspective, solve it that way. It's really cool now, Orca, and for anyone else who's been watching along with the process, where like we have a really easily defined set of parameters where I can be like, oh, I want a new service. Okay, cool, new service. This will be an API service. Awesome. And then like, what are the characteristics of an API service? Well, it needs Cloudflare, right? So we're going to go ahead and make Cloudflare true, right? It needs config map data. So we'll give it some config map data, right? It needs an image, right? So we'll give it an image of like, foo bar, right? What else does it need? It needs migrations. We want to enable migrations. That looks definitely familiar. We might have some Pulumi dependencies. So for example, if I was like, you know what? I also want this to even depends on. Look at that. I can drop in depends on, as well here. And I know I just put like any there, but here I can do this as well. That's valid. What else we got? Secret string data, right? Same thing. Object. Secret JWT if I want it to be able to talk internally with other services. If I want it to have a service, so if I want it to be exposed, we could say true. And then optionally what stack it, or what, not optionally, but also what stack it's in. So it could be like foo, right? And there we go. There's our API service, right? And now it's got, just similarly, like, again, what you and I are used to at Hippo, it will take care of all of the underlying resources and everything for us. It's really cool, man. It's really cool. And again, for anyone else who is super interested in this, like, it's pretty powerful stuff. It definitely is. Okay, so let's get back to the Cloudflare side of things. So I think our tunnel is good. I think it just needed the app. Yeah, I think that's all it needed. Oh, nope. We need a parent. Yep, so parent. Parent. Resource, that's right. Resource. Okay. Yeah, this looks good. Oh, wait, nope. Sorry. Parent. There we go. Okay, so now we can pass the parent down. This will return. Interesting. So this, this wants to, oh, no. Okay, we're good. Yeah, no, we're good. So what we want to do is get rid of all of that. We don't need any of that anymore, right? Because what we're doing now is we're creating the resource directly, right? And then just returning it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's better. That's what we wanted. Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. So the tunnel, for the most part, looks good. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create our record. So the first thing that it asks for is the Argo tunnel that we created, right? And then after that, it asks us for the app name. So we'll say app string like such. And then we need the zone ID as well. Okay, yeah, I know what we can do here. So we need that record. That's there. Perfect. Okay, so we need the zone ID. So the zone ID is actually something that we look up. If you've ever used Terraform before, this is the equivalent of doing a data lookup. And so it's actually this part right here where you'll see where we get the zone ID and then we do a zone.get. I have not imported my DNS from Terraform into Terraform state, essentially. And so because of that, because of that, I go out and like do essentially an API request to get the data and then use it as a resource. And so we need to do that here so we can tell it which zone that it's connected to, right? Now, here's what's interesting is this Cloudflare account ID, right, is global, right? It's for every Cloudflare resource. We're not doing the same thing like we are here, where we're saying like the tunnel secret has to be a specific secret for a specific resource, right? We're just saying every resource shares the account ID because we want this all to be in the same account, which that I would say is accurate. I don't see us wanting to like put these resources in like another account anytime soon or anything like that. The second thing is the zone ID. Now, what's interesting about the zone ID is that would mean that I could potentially put the record on a completely different domain. And that is a little bit more attractive. However, it would mean that I would have to do as I'm doing above, where I would have to create a zone ID for every service that is, and not every service, but just every service that is publicly exposed. But that does mean that at that point, chat, I could put my domains anywhere. I think I'm just going to do it. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do that. It's too powerful to be able to go back in here and be like, you know what? I'm migrating my services from one domain to another. Just change the what's it called? The zone ID. And so, yeah, I think we're going to do that. So this will be app zone ID. And so this will give us the ability to put specific services on specific zones. That means that like I can deploy one service to like quirk.tools, and then I can deploy another service to dev-quirk.tools, and just have complete. Yeah, that's going to be really nice. Yeah, I think not quirk.tools. Sorry, let me rephrase that. What this allows me to do is this allows me to say I can put it on quirk.tools. It can be a domain on quirk.tools. So it can be foo.quirk.tools. Or if I wanted to, I could be quirk private.tools, right? These are intrinsically different top level domains, quirk.tools and quirkprivate.tools. This is the zone, right? It'd be something even as similar to saying like foo.example.com to foo.private.com, right? This is what allows me to, and I can have them in the same cluster even too, right? So that's really nice, but that's just something to note. Now, right now, they're all going to stay the same. They're all going to stay the same zone because I don't need them to be different. But I configure it once and then I don't have to worry about it again. So we need to give it the stack. Gets an existing resource within the given thing. Why not have a if app specific defined? Because I don't. Oh, wait, hold on. Why not have an if app specific defined, use it, else use global? Use global. Oh, you mean just like a backup? We could. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's that's additional logic that we could add to it. So what you're saying is config dot, or wait, so what would we, well, so this, the problem is with that is then it's optional and we have to put the zone ID in code, really, right? Or we have to set it no matter what. So what we would do is we'd do like config dot get, right? Yeah. That's basically what we would have to do. So we would say, well, not even that even. It'd be more than this. But yeah, we could totally do that. Sorry. For now it's fine, but yes, we could totally do that. The name. Right. Dang. This wants to. So the problem here is we're going to be getting the zone a whole bunch of times. Which is fine. But it's going to create individual resources as well. And right now, because I'm using one zone, I'm going to have essentially like a ton of resources that is the same thing. I could also just import the zone, but I don't really know if I want to do that either. Or we just, you know what? This is, no, because see, it's still going to collide. That's the problem. Also, if we do this, well, maybe not. Hold on. No, it's not going to. Okay, I know how we can fix this. So what we need to do is we need to... Oh, wait. State. Oh, that's state. Okay, zone ID. So then this and then this is what I need. There we go, parent. Okay, so here's how we're going to make this work. We are going to allocate the zones the way that I'm thinking, right? Like I want to keep this separation so that in the future, if I want to put it on a different domain or something like that, I can totally do that easily. And by domain, we mean top level domain, not like foo from foo dot, or foo.bar.com to, foo dot or bar.bar.com, but from like foo.com to like bar.com, completely top level domain changes. Then I want to be able to do that. And what we'll do is we'll make it so that the record or the zone is scoped to that particular parent, right? So we've already been doing this before where we say like we have this parent that's passed down and that is bound to the component itself, right? This component here. So the parent will be the API quirk service. And that should make sure that these resources are at least isolated the way that they should be. Now, again, it's going to be the same domain a bunch of times, but the resources will at least be separated to where logically it won't really matter. So here, what we can do is the app zone. Yeah. And this says that it wants to depend on the service. What we might want to do here is create an option. So let's do type new tunnel ops. It's going to use ops instead of options, make my life a little bit easier. Parent resource, right? remember, we want to kind of stick with that same mentality of like the first one being the name or the naming definition, and the second one being options. All of the other options. New tunnel ops. So I broke that, which is fine. Go down here. Options dot parent. There we go. That's fixed. So we'll do the same thing here. Now I hope you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Where now I can be like new record ops, right? We want to keep parent. We're going to add tunnel. So we'll do tunnel, Argo tunnel, right? Is that right? Yeah, that is right. And then we need, I think that's it. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, that depends on. I think what I'm going to do here is I don't want to try and yeah, we can just redo what their type is. I don't remember exactly what the type is though. So we're going to want to go to a different service or a different file like service. And then where did I put? Yeah, here it is. So it's a resource or a promise resource or an input resource array. So it can be so many things. All right, I think what we're going to do instead is we're going to say Polumi and then resource options. That will allow us to then pass down that, which should mean technically I should probably just keep this like standardization of Polumi and then allow you to customize Polumi through their interface. That way, at least I know that they're using the interfaces I want them to. Resource options. I don't mind if we have that. Okay, cool. So options.polumi parent service, and then this can be options.polumi depends on, I think. Yeah. Oh, except for I didn't restructure this. Oh, yes, I did. I just didn't update it here. All right, so we'll do this, delete all of this, and say options, new record ops, right? We'll say options.tunnel ID, right? And then parent will be options.polumi parent, right? And then the depends on is options Polumi depends on. Awesome. What's that, Polumi? Polumi is for automation. Yeah. App zone ID. Require zone ID. Require zone ID. Yeah, this looks good, chat. This looks good. Okay, so now what'll happen is whenever we tell it that we want it to be routable, it's going to create three things. It's going to create, and we're not even done yet fully, or at least this is as far as we're going to be able to get right now because I got stuff I got to do. But essentially, we have, if we go back to our chart here, what we're adding are these three parts here. We're adding the Cloudflare daemon, the tunnel, and the CNAME record, and that's it. So the first thing we added was the CNAME record, right? We're starting where the entry point is essentially. So we added that so that people, when they try going to the specific domain, can look it up properly, right? That's the first thing. The second thing we added was the tunnel, and the tunnel points to, the CNAME record points to the tunnel so that traffic can go from CNAME to the tunnel. And we can see that by looking at our setup. So here's our A record right here, right? And you'll see it's a CNAME, right? And it's on the zone that we said. And if we look at the value points to options.tunnel.id, and then it creates the URL based off of the tunnel ID, right? So this record points to our tunnel. And then we created our tunnel right here, right? Where we said, all right, let's get our tunnel secret. Let's then render that secret into base 64. Let's get our Cloudflare account ID, and then let's create our tunnel resource. So at this point, we have standardized how we create A records and tunnels, as well as all the other things here. The one thing we're missing left is the Cloudflare daemon deployment. And this is, we actually need deployment, Cloudflare D. And this deployment is outside of the service deployment, or if we wanted to, we could make this into a sidecar. So yeah, I could actually, instead of doing this, what we could do is go here and call this a sidecar container. I think that's what we're going to do. And then this will sidecar directly into each one of the services. So basically, the deployments will have 2 containers, or 3 containers total. One, if you're running a migration, it'll do it in the init container step. Remember that, right? So if we go back here, we have our init container. Where'd it go? Where are you at? Init container. Yeah, here we go. Init containers. So you see this init containers. And then here's our, if we want to migrate, right? Options migrate. We create the args of the container, the environment from, the image, and the name, right? And then we add that to the init containers array. What we can do is we can also say this. So do you see, that's service. Where'd it go? Okay. Containers. There it is. So you see this section right here, like 25, there we go. You see this whole section right here? This is also an array, just like we have our init containers. So if we wanted to, if we really wanted to get clever here, right? I could say, well, let's grab all of this too, use that as a variable, and then after init containers, do let containers equals array, right? Blank array. And then we will create our first container, which is our let containers service, our service container. And that's the configuration that we just copied, essentially. Now, we don't want it to be in an array, so we'll cut the array part out, right? So it's just an object like this, right? I wonder if I could do service. Do I have, let's say service C, service container, whatever, service container. Yeah. And then what we can do is, here's what's really fun now, chat. I can copy this whole block of code and paste it, and now have the ability of configuring multiple containers in my deployment. Now, if you don't know what that means, what that means is that in this deployment here, there are 2 services or 2 containers running, right? The one on the left is the actual, what do I want to call this? I don't want to call it like the service, but this is the application, right? This is the application itself, which is our image essentially, right? We'll just call it the application, whatever. The application is deployed via the service, right? Well, what we've decided to do is we've decided to say, okay, well, not only is the application being deployed with the deployment, but we're also deploying a sidecar service that allows traffic, when set up properly, through to the application, right? So now what happens is in Kubernetes world, we not only deploy one service via our deployment, but we're deploying two that communicate with each other for, needs of whatever. Yeah, this will be really good. Could the tunnel end on a VPC, or is that app bound? So the reason why the tunnel is so isolated and everything the way that it is because this is all for our service resource, right? So what we're saying is every time we want to expose a resource to the cloud or to the internet, we want to, create all of these other resources like the sidecar container, which again, these are actually completely optional. So the application will be there by default, but we'll only get the sidecar with routing to the service if we configure it in the actual service itself. So at the very top here, where we've got Cloudflare right here, this Boolean, right? This has to be true for us to get the sidecar that's pointed to the application, right? Otherwise, it doesn't get the sidecar, and then the application is just deployed, and the service goes, it goes directly to, and actually, oh, my bad. I did this wrong. This is a little wrong. Hold on. So let's fix this. So we can go like this, keep this like this, because it does go to the service. It doesn't communicate to this. But then what happens is the deployment manages these two. Yeah, there we go. That's what we want. This is a better representation of it, guys. Right, and so the idea is that we always get an application with our deployment, right? That's what we built and put together, right? But we don't always get a service with it, and we don't always get a sidecar with it as well. As a matter of fact, I might even make it so that if you tell Cloudflare enabled, the service has to come no matter what. I don't know, that we might just make the service more standard so that it's not configurable itself, but if you tell it, hey, I want to be public, then it will, it'll create the service rather than just being service true or false. But yeah, this is a much better encapsulated perspective where the Kubernetes cluster has service namespaces, and in those service namespaces, we have a config map, a secret for image pulling, and a secret for JWT, which is optional, right? We can see the optional dashes here. We have a deployment, which is required, and then we have a service, which is optional, right, with the dashes here. We then, in our deployment, have an application, and this can be a container, right? And as a matter of fact, if we want to differentiate this a little bit, we could even say, this is maybe a little bit smaller, so that we just, doesn't necessarily look exactly the same. And then we can do the same thing here as well. We're going to say sidecar, like this. And put those like that. Do this a little bit more. And so now you can kind of see how this all works. Even a little bit better. Cool. There we go. So yeah, so the deployment puts out 2 containers, or one at the bare minimum, the application or the sidecar if we tell it to. If the sidecar is enabled, then it gets deployed with Cloudflare D setup, and that points back to our service, which is exposing the application container. So yeah, this looks really good, chat. This looks really good. Now we are going to stop right here, because I have to go eat, and then I have to do stuff for work. I have a meeting at 3 o'clock with one of my teammates, so I do want to be on time and prompt for that, chat. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Now, before I end the stream, I want to say a couple things. First and foremost, thank you for hanging out with me today. Secondly, you can get all of this information of what we did today in the one place that I've been advertising for a while now, which is our Alta4 wiki. Thank you, Thug Muffin. Our Alta4 wiki is where at the end of every stream, and this is like a thing we're doing now, at the end of every stream, I take a few more minutes to generate the document that you guys can go to and review this VOD, any articles or any documents we create, all that stuff too. So let's look back at the agenda for today, right? We picked up where we left off on implementing Pulumi resource component stream. I'll make a link to this in today's agenda so you guys can go back to that stream and review it if you want, right? We finished creating our service list reusable component, which includes, right, namespace, config map, blah, 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 blah. We then had to stop working on the A record support with Cloudflare because of how we do routing, right? And so we then realized that every service is publicly exposed, has two resources, a Cloudflare tunnel and a Cloudflare, actually we should say has three Cloudflare resources, a Cloudflare tunnel, right? And then a Cloudflare A record, and this should be a CNAME record, and then a Cloudflare daemon, right? Now, we were able to, and we can say we were able to finish the automation for the CNAME record and tunnel, but had to stop for creating the sidecar. However, I did go over what that would look like in the code, right? And that's where this is what I'm showing you right now, where we are doing exactly what we did with the init containers with this sidecar, where we're saying, okay, we're going to have a service container, and then we'll have a Cloudflare D container, right? And this will have its own configuration. And so what we'll say is, okay, cool. Let's go back down to, okay, we'll go here. We'll say, you know, service container, if options dot, right, Cloudflare, if we have Cloudflare enabled, right, then we want to add this container to the container or to the deployment. And so it'll do two things. It'll render the object, and then after that, we will say containers.push, and then our Cloudflare D container. And so now, if this exists, right? And what we can do as well is just to make sure we have this one, containers.push service container. Right? And so by default, outside of the if statement, right, we have our first service container, and then in the if statement, we have our another one. And later on, if we were to say, hey, we want another sidecar, no problem. If options dot, you know, sidecar, then, you know, define. So you'd be like, you know, to do define container, and then, you know, containers.push sidecar, right? And there you go. Now you have another sidecar if you could, you know, if you wanted to add even more, you know what I mean, even more to it. So I have now shown you guys really what I'm going to be doing. There's nothing you're missing here. And as I said before, on top of it, I'm about to post this link for you guys so that you have access to it. So as I said before, the Alta4 wiki is a new community thing that I, as well as our mods, are maintaining. You can be a part of it. All you have to do to sign up is just have a GitHub, and then you can easily contribute to these too. If you have any questions, like real talk chat, if you have questions, reply. You can reply right in these. Bam, reply right there, right? If you want to make your own articles on stuff, technical design documents, talking about DevOps and infrastructure, right? Like all of this is not just for me, but for you guys as well. So, all right, let me go ahead and make this new one. So we're going to go here, new topic, 02/23/2022. And this will be, Polumi, resource components. right? Cool. We'll say implementing Pulumi resource components. Perfect. Okay. And so then we will go here. I will grab all of this, copy this, paste it into there for you guys. So today's agenda, here it is, all available for you. And then I even go one step further for you guys. Look at this chat. I'm so nice to you guys. I even go to Twitch, right? I go right here once it loads. Come on, load for me. Oh my gosh. Inception chat, streamception. I go right here, I click on this, and then I go to videos. And the reason why I go to videos is because this right here is the VOD from today. And so what I can do is I can just click share, embed, grab the iframe, and then take this, and right at the top for your viewing pleasure, look at this chat, Alt F4 wiki. Now, one thing to note about this before I post it is we have a YouTube. We also have a YouTube. I normally go back and update once they're uploaded to the YouTube, the VODs from the YouTube. So you might see a VOD change from a Twitch embed to a YouTube embed. That's fine. Don't worry. They'll all eventually be on YouTube. I was going to show them in a second, Oh Thug Muffin, but let me go ahead and post this out for you guys as well. So let me go ahead and insert our table of contents. And then let me just make a link here because we did do another stream and we're making a reference to. So let's make sure that we have an in-depth wiki. So implementing Polumi resource libraries. Cool. And then we'll go here. Reusable libraries or resource libraries. Implementing Polumi resource library stream. Fantastic. And so you can go back to that stream. You see this link right here? So if you want to go back to that stream, you click that, watch that, and then come back to this and watch this. No matter what, though, here you go, chat. I'm going to go ahead and create the topic for you guys. Bam. There you go. It is made. So chat, if you want any of the information from today, guess what? It's on the wiki. There's the link right there. You're more than welcome to reply. Again, all you have to do to sign up is use your GitHub account. That's it. And then you can reply, ask questions, anything like that, as well as if you want to, again, make your own posts about, technical design documents, DevOps. We're going to be adding other things. We've got software and stuff in here too. Don't worry. This is going to be it's just going to keep growing as we keep adding more stuff to it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, I'm going to call it here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. A couple other things. If you are new to our channel, again, that is our little blurb right there about us. We are a variety stream hosted by myself, BG, as well as my good friend Atoda. If you see a guy with a mustache playing video games, that's Atoda. And if you see me coding, well, that's me. We do a bunch of different stuff here. We also stream together from time to time where we do gaming content and do cool things like party mode. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. If you're ever curious about any other content that we have going on, we do, as I just said, have a YouTube. We have two YouTubes, actually. The first YouTube is our main YouTube. This is brand new. This is something we are slowly starting to grow. We did a bunch of content with Microsoft, and so we do have our Microsoft VODs up there that is on their YouTube. But we will be uploading a bunch of new stuff. I'm working on a video right now for local development, how to set up some stuff like that, that I think you guys are going to really like as well. The other YouTube channel is our second YouTube channel that we just recently created. And that is what we are calling the Alta4 Archives. The Alta4 Archives is where I was just referencing, is where all of our VODs are. So if you ever want to be able to come back, reference a VOD, anything like that, you ever want to, see what was local Kubernetes development, what was that VOD about, or infrastructure as code, or, if you go through the wiki and you find something in particular, they're all in the archive. So that's it. One last thing as well, be sure to check out our Discord. That is where we do all of our offline chatting. If you ever have questions as well, you can hit me up in the Discord, hit up any of our wonderful community members. We're always there for you. And then, yeah, social media. That's when we post when we're going live, all that good stuff. So So yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I don't know why the last little thing is missing there, but anyways, have a very good rest of your evening. I will be back Friday. So Friday, I will be back. I hope to see you guys then. But tomorrow, chat, tomorrow, we will be doing some gaming with Atoda. So if you guys have not caught Atoda's stream yet, you definitely should. He's been doing a lot of different stuff lately. I think right now he's going to be playing Lost Ark. So you guys should definitely check out that stream. We've been really enjoying Lost Ark. Our community's been really enjoying Lost Ark too. Our Discord's been popping because of Lost Ark, honestly, which has been cool. So yeah, be sure to check out that stream tomorrow. Let's go raid somebody though. Let's go find somebody to raid. Who can we raid? Who can we raid? All right, let's go raid Griffing. We haven't raided Griffing in a solid minute. Let's go raid Griffing. All right, guys, let's go say hi to Griffing. If you guys don't know CM Griffing, he's an awesome person and streamer in the software and gaming category. He's always working on really cool stuff, so let's go say hi to him. You guys have a very fantastic rest of your evening. We love you. We appreciate you. I hope to see you in the Discord. If I don't see you in the Discord, I hope to see you tomorrow. And if I don't see you tomorrow, I hope to see you Friday. And if I don't see you Friday, you better say something in the wiki. All right. Love you guys. Peace out. See ya.